Chapter 491. Qin Zhonghen sneered. How could he use the same technique that was used to deal with those idiots against him? That was simply wishful thinking. Since that was the case, he would let Qin Zhonghen experience the power of the thunder beheading blade. From the lightning/blade, a ray of light directly bloomed. Lightning flashed, and there was no need for any extra yuan energy to be used. The power of the lightning/blade was directly released. Boom! The lightning was so domineering that it spread out like a spider web in the sky, instantly shattering the giant web in front of Qin Zhonghen. When Song Jieyu and the others below the stage saw that the giant net was cut into pieces like tofu, they were all in disbelief. This web was made with special craftsmanship. How could it shatter so easily? The power of the thunder beheading blade is actually so domineering. Logically speaking, even a Yuan monarch powerhouse would find it very difficult to break free from this huge net. However, it had actually been reduced to a pile of fragments by the thunder beheading blade. To the current Song Jieyu, this was naturally shocking. At the same time, the rest of the people were also extremely shocked. This was because when Li Zongjio had used this web, it had directly engulfed all 6 of them. This showed how powerful the thunder beheading blade was. It was not that Li Zongjio had become weak, but that the power of the thunder beheading blade was simply too strong. Many of the people present were blacksmithing experts, so they could see the power of the thunder beheading blade at a glance. They were all amazed. The power of the thunder beheading blade is really impressive. Not bad. Based on the current power of this blade, even the 100 battle golden armor of our golden pavilion would only be able to withstand 3 moves at most. Someone exclaimed in amazement. At the same time, he did not forget to praise his own Yuanjia in this way. Qin Zhonghen was really thick-skinned. After this exclamation, similar sounds of disdain could be heard from the surroundings. They all felt that this person was truly shameless. However, the people of the Golden Pavilion were not ashamed. Haha, your toy is just a pile of trash in my eyes, Qin Zhonghen said indifferently. Li Zongjio, on the other hand, completely ignored him. After hearing this, the corners of his mouth curled up into a faint smile. The cannons fired more than 10 times in a row. Bang bang bang. These cannons were originally meant to take control of the enemy before pursuing them. The firebirds at the edge were also constantly flying out. Rumble. If some explosive maniacs were to see such a scene, they would definitely be extremely excited. However, at that very moment, Li Zongjio's behavior was akin to a frightened sparrow unleashing that sort of attack. There was no strategy or routine at all. These terrifying flames shot towards Qin Zhonghen. However, Qin Zhonghen only smiled faintly. Such a method was really too low level. What kind of person would make such an emperor-level mistake? He was a complete newbie. In a battle, the most important thing was to stay calm. Li Zongjio was now completely in a state of panic. Killing him would be as easy as flipping one's hand. This guy, what is he trying to do? Song Jieyu could also see that Li Zongjio was completely out of sorts. Could it be that he wanted to go all out and use this kind of crazy method to eliminate his opponent? How could that be possible? The thunder/blade moved once again. The roaring lightning instantly shattered the flames in front of him. The sea of flames turned into a sea of lightning. The sea of lightning crackled continuously. It was enough to see the terrifying power within. If someone were to accidentally fall into it, they would be burned to a crisp. Li Zongjio's raging dragon/blade had no effect in front of the thunder/blade. It was easily blocked. In fact, it was an extremely strong suppression. Boom! Qin Zhonghen's sword slashed the chaotic energy in front of him and sent it flying. Jumping clown, what other tricks do you have? Just use them. Today, this young master will let you know the difference between us in front of so many people. Qin Zhonghen laughed out loud. It seemed like he had Li Zongjio in the palm of his hand. It would be a piece of cake for him to kill Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio finally made his move at this moment. He removed the energy of the raging dragon/blade. Li Zongjio took out an item from a secret compartment of the raging dragon/blade. It was a shiny blade. However, although the blade was abnormally tough, it was still very strong. If he wanted to kill the enemy, or even fight against the thunder/blade, he would be overestimating himself. Such a short dagger could only be used as a last resort. Now that Li Zongjio had taken out such a trick, it was obvious that he was at his wit's end. Haha, does this count as a cornered dog jumping over the wall? When they saw the little bayonet being mounted on the raging dragon seizing fury, they felt that it was extremely hilarious. I'll pierce your mouth later. I'd like to see if you can still laugh. Li Zongjio said indifferently. Song Jiyu seemed to have returned to her previous state. She was jealous and distrustful of Li Zongjio again. Looking at the crazy Li Zongjio in front of her, she couldn't believe that Li Zongjio was crazy. He wanted to use this small dagger to fight against the thunder-slash-blade, made by the Bright Thunder Workshop. Moreover, the thunder-slash-blade was in the hands of Qin Zhonghen, one of the 4 princes of Qingyuan Manor. How could this be possible? Song Jiyu didn't know, because Li Zongjio had already done a lot of things that were beyond common sense today. Even if he did one more thing, it wouldn't be a problem if a miracle happened. Don't expect a miracle. I'm the one who will destroy you completely, Qin Zhonghen said. Since Li Zongjio had no other means, the performance would end here. The two of them stepped forward almost at the same time, and rushed towards each other. Li Zongjio's figure flashed and instantly appeared behind Qin Zhonghen. What? So fast? To be able to display such speed, he must have cheated. Haha. A ripple suddenly appeared in Li Zongjio's eyes. Thunder-slash-blade. Qin Zhonghen, who was about to use a big move, suddenly stopped. At this moment, many people widened their eyes in disbelief. Many experts' gazes suddenly became sharp. Chapter 492. Oh no, Qin Zhonghen muttered in his heart. At this moment, he was unable to move, because Li Zongjio had used his mental energy. Rules? Why would I talk about rules when I'm between life and death? I'm the great evil lord Li Zongjio. Do you think I have to listen to your messy rules? I, Li Zongjio, can kill if I want to and keep if I want to. Who can stop me? The moment Qin Zhonghen's body stopped moving, Li Zongjio had already circled behind Qin Zhonghen. The bayonet in his hand instantly pierced through the back of Qin Zhonghen's head and into the front of his throat. The sharp bayonet pierced through his mouth and fresh blood flowed out. Li Zongjio did not hesitate. With a light flick of his hand, a bloody hole appeared in Qin Zhonghen's neck. Even if Qin Zhonghen did not die, he was already severely injured. The blood that was spurting out continuously flowed into his throat. Until now, Qin Zhonghen was still unable to control his body. He was frozen on the spot, feeling the intense pain engulfing his mind and everything. Puff! With another light slash, Qin Zhonghen's neck was easily cut off. Half of Qin Zhonghen's head was hanging on his shoulder. Wow! Such a tragic way of killing Qin Zhonghen in front of everyone's eyes caused them to cry out in alarm. This scene was truly shocking. It was hard to believe that such a thing had actually happened. Brat, how dare you kill him? Seeing this, the deputy pavilion master of the Saber Axe Pavilion immediately stood up and pointed at Li Zongjio as he cursed loudly. However, when Li Zongjio's gaze fell on the deputy pavilion master, the deputy pavilion master's heart palpitated. He was actually a little afraid in front of so many people. Under such a degree of fear, the deputy pavilion master did not speak for a while. He swallowed his saliva and looked at the people in charge of the Ironware Merchant Alliance not far away. Dear directors, all of you have seen it just now. This kid actually used his mental strength on purpose to break the rules and kill people on purpose. He has completely turned this Origin Weapon Conference into a place where he can unleash his killing intent and do whatever he wants. The deputy pavilion master of the Saber Axe Pavilion said loudly. Hearing this, Li Zongjio threw Qin Zhonghen's head to the ground. Then, he put away the thunder beheading blade. Li Zongjio had a deep impression of this thunder-slash-blade. He didn't have many enemies in his previous life, but this thunder-slash-blade brought him unforgettable memories, so he had to keep it well. How dare you take away the weapons of our Saber and Axe Pavilion? The deputy pavilion master immediately shouted. He seemed to want to blame Li Zongjio. At this moment, Song Jiyu also reacted. Li Zongjio must have secretly used his mental strength just now, so that he could kill Qin Zhonghen so easily. Deputy Pavilion Master, your words are a little funny. With the standard of your Saber and Axe Pavilion, It is already very good to be able to forge a piece of trash like the iron-blooded golden saber and axe pavilion. I believe that anyone with eyes can see that this thunder-beheading blade is not a weapon of your saber and axe pavilion at all. First, you broke the rules, then you slandered us. It seems that the saber and axe pavilion wants to dominate, despise the merchant alliance, and establish themselves as the king. Song Jiyu also spoke clearly, and every word was full of power. Since Li Zongjio had survived and killed his opponent directly, then the saber and axe pavilion master had been killed. Although Li Zongjio had gone overboard, after all, Li Zongjio was now a member of the 7-star fire room. Perhaps some people would choose to directly push Li Zongjio out. After all, this kind of thing would be very troublesome if they got involved. The involvement of Qingyuan Manor would inevitably complicate this matter. However, Song Jiyu was not a fool. She saw it clearly. On Li Zongjio's body, there was an endless amount of potential and treasures. They had to firmly grasp onto this thread on Li Zongjio's body. In the future, the 7-star fire room would definitely be able to reach a higher level. In fact, her confidence in Li Zongjio was based on Li Zongjio's perfect performance of the Fury Dragon Catcher. It was precisely because of this that he had won a favorable impression. In this case, perhaps there was a certain tacit understanding between her and Li Zongjio. Therefore, unlike other merchants, if the person she hired caused a big mess, she would probably have already washed her hands clean. However, this time, it was not approved. Therefore, Song Jiyu also stood up. She supported Li Zongjio. Although it was said that people with discerning eyes could see that Li Zongjio had used some kind of power in the end, only a few people could sense the fluctuation of this mind power. Moreover, there was no extra way to leave behind evidence of this mind power. Even if someone knew, it was difficult to find evidence because the time was too short. In addition, Li Zongjio's own mind power was extremely high. It was also very difficult to find something that could be used against Li Zongjio. Moreover, even if they really found something that could be used against Li Zongjio, there was no need to disclose this information, because it was very likely that they would offend Li Zongjio and the 7-star fire room. Not only would they not gain any benefits, but they would also put themselves in a dangerous situation. It was commonly known as a thankless task. This was the situation that was commonly known. Even the several directors of the Ironware Merchant Alliance saw that there was something fishy going on. However, this was also a very special situation. For the time being, take the body away for examination. After the injury is verified, we will make a judgment. You all should stop arguing. As for the Yuan weapon exhibition that will be held later, it will still be carried out according to plan. After some discussion, the Ironware Merchant Alliance also made such a public announcement. When the deputy pavilion master of the Saber Axe Pavilion heard this, he immediately disagreed. This was clearly an attempt to stall for time and directly deny this matter. How can this be? We will only be able to find out the truth by the end of the year. Song Jiyu, quickly return the thunder-slashing blade to me. Otherwise, you will only be inviting trouble for yourselves. The deputy pavilion master of the Saber Axe Pavilion was very unwilling. This was because the result of this treatment was completely to let Li Zongjio off. Such a thing should not happen. Li Zongjio must be severely punished. At the same time, when he mentioned the thunder-slashing blade, Li Zongjio's eyes also looked over. It seems that this deputy pavilion master also wants to forge a relationship with me. Li Zongjio's eyes revealed a trace of playful killing intent. When the deputy pavilion master of the Saber Axe Pavilion saw this, he was momentarily speechless. The thunder-slashing blade was clearly in Li Zongjio's hands, but he did not dare to take a step forward. You will regret this. After the deputy pavilion master of the Saber Axe Pavilion finished speaking, he turned around and left directly. At this moment, there was no point in continuing to stay there. After the deputy pavilion master of the Saber Axe Pavilion left, the heads of the other shops also came forward to congratulate him. The 7-star flame room was able to forge such a powerful yuan weapon. They would definitely be able to make a lot of money in the following period of time. Of course, they had to congratulate him properly. Chapter 493. After Song Jiyu dealt with them for a while, she found an excuse to leave. Li Zhongjiu, accompanied by Xiao Zhao, waited for Song Jiyu in a camp. When Song Jiyu entered the tent, Li Zhongjiu also opened his eyes from his cultivation. Do you have enmity with Qingyuan Villa? Song Jiyu went straight to the point. Qingyuan Villa was of course powerful. To be able to become the #1 villa in the world, they naturally had unimaginable abilities. However, it didn't mean that everyone in the world would avoid Qingyuan Villa. The 7-star fire room was one of them. To be able to truly contend with Qingyuan Villa, the 7-star fire room might not be enough. However, since a long time ago, the competition between them had already existed. There was in the past, but there is no enmity now. However, I will destroy them. Li Zhongjiu thought for a while. If there was any enmity, it was really accumulated from his previous life. Now that he was reborn, in order to avoid the situation from his previous life, Li Zhongjiu had to completely remove this hidden danger. Destroy them? With just you, Li Zhongjiu? Song Jiyu looked at Li Zhongjiu in surprise. When she said this, she didn't say that she was looking down on Li Zhongjiu or ridiculing him. She was just surprised by Li Zhongjiu's way of thinking. It was as if someone in front of you said that he would sit on the dragon throne in the Shengyan dynasty's palace tomorrow and let the Emperor Shengyan kneel and lick his boots. That's enough. Li Zhongjiu said indifferently. This wasn't a secret. You are a person who can stir up a storm. My 7-star fire room wants to cooperate with you for a long time. Song Jiyu said directly. She looked at Li Zhongjiu and wanted to see something in Li Zhongjiu's eyes. Oh, the 7-star fire room wants to cooperate with me? If I remember correctly, the 7-star fire room isn't yours yet. Li Zhongjiu looked at Song Jiyu and said, So, what I want is for you to help me, and I to help you. Only now did Li Zhongjiu take a good look at Song Jiyu. She was young, but her courage and insight were not small. Moreover, her vision was not small either. It seemed that managing a shop in Royal City was a little overkill for Song Jiyu. Xiao Zhao stood at the side, seemingly unable to understand the conversation between the two of them. Help with what? With Mrs. Identity and Status. What else did she need Li Zhongjiu's help? Helping Miss earn money, making money. And what did she want to give Li Zhongjiu? What did she want to help Li Zhongjiu? Could it be that she wanted to help Li Zhongjiu deal with Qingyuan Villa? Dealing with Qingyuan Villa, for a single Li Zhongjiu, was clearly a losing business. Qingyuan Villa was the biggest villa in the world. Those who stayed there were all famous masters in the Jianghu, who knew how many geniuses had gathered there. The elite masters in the Jianghu would be proud to receive an invitation from Qingyuan Villa. Of course, Li Zhongjiu knew what the girl in front of him wanted. 7-star fire room. Take control. Previously, he didn't expect a girl like Song Jiyu to have such ambition. When Li Zhongjiu was reborn, he didn't just want to let it go so easily. Instead, he wanted to make the Li family the strongest family in the world. As for what would happen after that, as long as Li Zhongjiu was still alive, he would never allow the Li family to decline. However, in the process of growth, it was useless to be strong alone. One had to gather enough power, and gather all the powers together. Just like how Li Zhongjiu was preparing to integrate all the casinos in the Sacred Flame Royal City. This was a place where money was rolling in. Anyone who was ruthless would want to get a share of the profits from the casinos. Li Zhongjiu was going to do it. He was the most ruthless one. Only then could he make a profit. As for Song Jiyu, since she was interested, Li Zhongjiu naturally welcomed her with open arms. However, the prerequisite was that Song Jiyu had enough power. Of course I can help you. If you want to cooperate with me, the prerequisite is that you have enough power. Li Zhongjiu said indifferently. I'm afraid that just the 2 lives today are enough to make you anxious. Li Zhongjiu said. No one will agree if Qingyuan Manor wants to interfere with the Yuan weapon business in the Sacred Flame Royal City. The Blade Axe Pavilion will definitely be defeated within 3 months. Even if Qingyuan Manor bribed half of the Ironware Merchant Union, it will still be useless. The real market will not be occupied by the Merchant Union. The ones who will control it are the big bosses like us. Song Jiyu said, if a woman was beautiful, she would be attractive enough. If she was smart, it would be even more surprising. However, it would also be scary. because you would find out that you were also being schemed against. However, Li Zongjie liked to cooperate with such people. At the very least, everyone was very clear about what they wanted. Everyone took what they needed, cooperated with each other, and cooperated with smart people. That was the advantage of cooperating with smart people. Therefore, when Song Jiyu said this, Li Zongjie also agreed. Alright, I'll give you 2 months to destroy the saber and axe pavilion. If you can do it, then come and talk to me about cooperation. Li Zongjie said faintly. Song Jiyu's eyes flashed. The Blade Axe Pavilion and the Sky Sword Pavilion were the old merchants in the Sacred Flame Royal City. Even the 7-star fire room was weaker than them. If it wasn't for Song Jiyu's smart strategy, it would be difficult to bring the 7-star fire room to such a height. Li Zongjie's request was to defeat the Blade Axe Pavilion in 2 months. When Xiao Zhao heard this, she was so shocked that her mouth was wide open. How could such a thing happen? The Saber and Axe Pavilion occupied almost 30% of the market share. This was because heavy weapons such as sabers and axes were very difficult to forge. In addition, many people were used to using such weapons. Furthermore, most of the guards used this type of weapon in their training. Therefore, every time the Blade Axe Pavilion produced a power-type weapon, it would be enthusiastically sought after in the market. The Sky Sword Pavilion mainly relied on nimble swords. Just like the Sky Destroyer sword this time, it was indestructible. However, it just so happened to run into the guy on the Raging Flames Dragon Catcher, which caused such intense damage. It was really shocking. Originally, it should have been able to shine, but it ran into Li Zongjie. The weapons made by the 7-star fire room were naturally of good craftsmanship, but it was already very good to be able to stand firm between these two old brands. It would undoubtedly be very difficult to swallow the Saber and Axe Pavilion. If one was not careful, one might even be killed by the Saber Axe Pavilion. Such a situation was extremely normal. Chapter 494. Therefore, in Xiao Zhao's opinion, Li Zongjie's request was complete nonsense. Who could possibly destroy the Saber Axe Pavilion? Did he think that this was a game? Even if it was, he wouldn't dare to think this way. Li Zongjie was clearly making things difficult for Song Jiyu. After Song Jiyu heard Li Zongjie's request, she was silent for a moment. She stared at Li Zongjie. Without a doubt, this was also a war. However, it was different from a real war. This was a commercial war. If Song Jiyu agreed, she would definitely become the leader of this war. If there were any problems, Song Jiyu would have to take responsibility. If she wasn't careful, she might be consigned to eternal damnation. The surroundings seemed to have become terrifyingly silent. Xiao Zhao didn't know what her young miss was thinking, but she could see that her young miss's gaze was gradually becoming dangerous. She wanted to say something to dissuade her young miss, but she couldn't say anything in the end. Alright, within 2 months, I will definitely make the Saber Axe Pavilion completely withdraw from Sacred Flame Royal City. Finally, Song Jiyu said aloud. This was something that could only be done with great determination. If she didn't take the risk and put all her eggs in one basket, it wouldn't be long before Song Jiyu would be dismissed and eventually take up the position of an executive elder in the family. It could be considered a success. However, she definitely had no right to ask about the matters of the 7-star fire room. This was because the 7-star fire room had gradually gained a foothold. Song Jiyu didn't need to worry about the following matters. Someone in the Song family would naturally take care of it. Even if Song Jiyu was the daughter of the Song family's head, the outcome would still be the same. Therefore, Song Jiyu had to seize the opportunity to completely stabilize her power and position. Otherwise, her many years of hard work would be wasted, and she would gradually become someone else's dowry. How could Song Jiyu bear this? This was the sorrow of living in a big family. Because Song Jiyu was not a man. Even if Song Jiyu's father was willing to let a woman be in charge, the others would not be willing. There would always be people who would not let go of this point. After meeting Li Zongjie, he saw the potential in Li Zongjie. Although Song Jiyu didn't know much about Li Zongjie, and even knew that Li Zongjie was an extremely dangerous person, what Song Jiyu was doing now was also a very dangerous thing. And it just so happened that they were a pair. Alright then, look for me when you succeed. Since we are partners, I will provide you with some help. If you encounter any trouble, you can go to my place to seek help. As long as it's below the primitive emperor realm, I can usually solve it. Li Zongjie said. With Song Jiyu's ability, it should not be difficult to find out where Li Zongjie lived. In order to make it more convenient for Song Jiyu, Li Zongjie also left a note. Although Song Jiyu was powerful and could use a lot of resources, if she wanted to do some personal things, it would not be so easy. Therefore, Li Zongjie also chose to help her. Of course, he did not go all out, but at this critical moment, it was not a difficult thing to do. After that, Li Zongjie left the Golden Mountain. Before Li Zongjie left, Song Jiyu could not help but remind him that Saber Axe Pavilion and Blue Tiger Gang have some connections. This time, you ruined their good thing and snatched their Thunder Slayer blade. They will definitely do something to you. However, Li Zongjie acted as if he did not hear it and left directly. If these people dared to come, Li Zongjie would not care at all. Why would these gangs name themselves after animals? Were they trying to increase their murderous aura? On the Golden Mountain, the deputy pavilion master of the Saber Axe Pavilion had an opium pipe in his mouth. When he heard Li Zongjie leave the 7-star flame room, he immediately threw the opium pipe in his hand to the ground and stepped on it. Let's go. That damn brat actually dared to stare at me. I have been in the Sacred Flame Royal City for so many years. Does he really think that I have been in the Sacred Flame Royal City for nothing? After the competition, the deputy pavilion master felt that he had suffered a great humiliation. Furthermore, the Thunder Slayer blade was also snatched away by Li Zongjie. If he did not take it back, how could he explain it to the people of Qingyuan Manor? However, the people of Qingyuan Manor were indeed a bunch of trash. Young Master Everlasting Hatred. Trash. Why did they have to trouble others to collect their corpses after they died? Why couldn't they collect their own corpses? Before this, the deputy pavilion master had already contacted the 4 protector kings of the Blue Tiger Gang. The Blue Tiger Gang used the weapons of the Saber Axe Pavilion, so they had close cooperation with each other. Therefore, there were many conflicts of interest between the two parties. Therefore, if there was any trouble that could not be solved, they would naturally inform the Blue Tiger Gang. The 4 guardian kings of the Blue Tiger Gang were equivalent to the 4 super fighters of the Blue Tiger Gang. They were extremely powerful. The Blue Tiger Gang's recent development was not bad. For some reason, the number 1 gang, the Azure Dragon Gang, was suddenly crippled. They took advantage of this opportunity to seize a large amount of territory. They grew stronger in an instant. The original Azure Dragon Gang could not even take care of themselves now. They were engaged in fierce internal strife. Other than the few main territories that they were guarding, the rest of their territories were basically lost or snatched away. The person who had always been in second place jumped up in an instant. Therefore, the Blue Tiger Gang had been very arrogant recently. Their strength was also extremely strong. Now that the income of the 4 guardian kings had skyrocketed, they did not care about anyone else. When they received the summons of the deputy pavilion master of the Saber and Axe Pavilion, they led their men to the foot of the Golden Mountain to stop people. As the 4 guardian kings of the Blue Tiger Gang, they could be said to be second only to one person. The Blue Tiger Gang now had more than 8,000 members, and these were only the official members. If some non-official members were included, the number would be enormous. Guardian King Shannying, we saw people coming down from the mountain. On the official road, 4 carriages were placed horizontally in the middle of the road. If anyone wanted to pass through, they would have to move the carriages aside. Of course, this was only the meaning. Li Zongjie came to the front of the carriages and stopped in his tracks. Immediately, someone jumped into the carriage and waved the long saber in his hand. He threw a torch, which instantly ignited the pile of firewood on the road. Boom! The flames immediately lit up the surrounding area. I opened this road. If you want to pass through, pay the toll. Kid, hand over the thing in your hand and get lost. Chapter 495. Except for the group of people who jumped onto the carriage. In addition, the sound of swords clashing could be heard all around. The surrounding people were also clamoring. They actually dared to rob people on the official road. One had to admit that these people were getting bolder and bolder. They were the 4 guardian kings of the Blue Tiger Gang: Mountain Eagle, Black Bear, Leopard and Poison Arrow. Shining was also wearing a dazzling long robe. With a light sway, he appeared in front of everyone like a peerless expert. Then Black Bear and the other 2 also rushed out. Each of them brought their own men and surrounded Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio also looked at the scene in front of him in a daze. The people who were still performing were also shocked. What exactly were these people doing? Could it be that the gangs nowadays were actually a bunch of idiots? Li Zongjio was too lazy to talk nonsense with these people. Without another word, he directly pulled out the thunder beheading blade in his hand. Boom! When the thunder beheading blade shone with light, the people from the Saber Axe Pavilion, who were rushing down from the mountain in the distance, were also shocked. It seemed that Li Zongjio had already encountered the other party. Otherwise, there would be no need to use the thunder beheading blade. They finally found a chance to snatch the thunder beheading blade back. Immediately, the dozen or so people quickly rushed down. However, when they rushed to the intersection, they found that the surroundings were charred black. The originally green trees were now filled with the smell of black charcoal. There were also 4 carriages that were burning with flames, and crackling noises could be heard from the carriages. The corpses lying on the ground were also glowing corpses. When the deputy pavilion master of the Saber Axe Pavilion saw this scene, his eyes widened. Not good. They even dared to kill the 4 guardian kings of the Blue Tiger Gang. Seeing this, the vice pavilion master's heart was filled with shock. Even if they were not enough to defeat Li Zongjio, they would not have ended up like this. They were completely annihilated. Coupled with the tragic situation around them, these people from the Saber and Axe Pavilion began to worry. It seemed that they had encountered a terrifying person. It's good that he's dead. If he's dead, the Blue Tiger Gang will definitely hold Li Zongjio accountable. Now, I want to see what you can do. If the Blue Tiger Gang wants to kill you, it will be a piece of cake. The deputy pavilion master of the Saber Axe Pavilion was extremely pleased with himself. With such a series of schemes, they would definitely not lose out. After all, their Saber Axe Pavilion was a business. If they personally handled these vendettas, they would dirty their hands. Therefore, it was better to let these people do it. If these people couldn't deal with the other party, then this enmity wouldn't just be between the Blade Axe Pavilion and Li Zongjio. It would also be a matter between the Blue Tiger Gang and Li Zongjio. As long as this happened, such a situation would naturally occur. It would escalate to a point where there was no need to push it. However, the Vice Pavilion Master did not expect Li Zongjio to be such a ruthless person. He did not even spare a single one of them. All 4 Guardian Kings had been killed. Even the Vice Pavilion Master did not dare to believe such a thing. The Blue Tiger Gang was now at the peak of its power. Now Li Zongjio was probably finished. Oh, you've thought it through. Not long after the Vice Pavilion Master finished speaking, he heard a cold voice. When the Vice Pavilion Master heard this, a ray of light flashed across his eyes. When he turned around, he saw 2 figures appear in the darkness. With the weak light around them, he could vaguely see that it was a woman. As for the other person, it was just an old man. The Vice Pavilion Master of the Saber and Axe Pavilion looked over. Who's playing tricks here? The 2 figures walked out and appeared in front of everyone. The Vice Pavilion Master of the Saber and Axe Pavilion was surprised to see them. He had not expected this person to appear in front of him. So it's you, Songjie. The Vice Pavilion Master of the Saber and Axe Pavilion said meaningfully. Do you think that you can let your 7-star fire room take advantage of the situation by finding a random brat to defeat me? A woman will always be a woman. No matter how hard you work, everything you create will be snatched away by your brothers in the future. Why do you want to pave the way for someone else? If you're willing, come to the Saber and Axe Pavilion. You can ask for whatever reward you want. Song Jiyu smiled when she heard the Vice Pavilion Master's words. He was indeed an experienced person. She did not expect him to not forget to fight for benefits at such a time. In the eyes of these people, even a dead person's skin could be easily plucked off. All right, then give me your head. Song Jiyu smiled and said. The Vice Pavilion Master of the Saber and Axe Pavilion's smile gradually disappeared. This Song Jiyu dared to threaten him. I think that you're courting death. Today, I'll teach you a lesson on behalf of your father. However, before the Vice Pavilion Master of the Saber and Axe Pavilion could give the order, he saw the person behind Song Jiyu and rushed out. Boom! When the old man's appearance appeared in the light, the Vice Pavilion Master of the Saber and Axe Pavilion was stunned. This was because he did not know the person in front of him and had never seen him before. Roar! The terrifying roar of a beast came from the side. Then a swift and fierce figure was seen. It was rushing over, and in the blink of an eye, it was in front of the people of the Saber and Axe Pavilion. Wolf! There's a wolf! Crack! The figure of the Howling Moon Wolf King immediately appeared. Its huge paws were equipped with sharp claws, and it immediately grabbed the dozen people before it. Bang! 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 Some people were directly sent flying, and their bodies smashed into the big trees with a boom. Even those who didn't die were severely injured. What are you trying to do? The Vice Pavilion Master roared. His subordinates immediately stood in front of him, trying to stop the old man in front of them. But all of a sudden, the old man in front of him disappeared without a trace. He disappeared. Where did he go? Protect the Vice Pavilion Master. The guard in front of him shouted loudly. Suddenly, he felt a gust of wind blowing towards him. Swoosh! The guards immediately felt some kind of liquid splashing up from their necks, and they immediately felt a chill. They wanted to see what it was. When they turned their heads, they saw their Vice Pavilion Master's head fly off. While they were still in shock, they immediately saw a cold light sweeping toward them. That sharp blade light directly pierced towards his neck. Swoosh! The cold wind whistled and swept over. The figures of several people suddenly stopped where they were, and their heads all flew backwards. At this moment, the Howling Moon Wolf King bit the last person in half. It was extremely bloody and cruel. This beast's behavior was completely different from what Song Jiyu had seen before. She had thought that the Howling Moon Wolf King was just a small wolf dog. Who knew that it would be so cruel? A Yuan King level Yuan beast. It was hiding in Li Zhongjio's residence. What was going on with the old man in front of her? His movements were so fast, and his assassination techniques were so proficient. The dozen or so people present were all taken down in just a few moments. Chapter 496. Inghu shook his clothes. The Howling Moon Wolf King changed back to its original form. Its body, which was almost 10 meters long, gradually shrank back to its original form that Song Jiyu saw at the beginning. Young Master said that we can only help you 3 times. This is the first time. Inghu walked in front of Song Jiyu and said calmly. He walked into the darkness without looking back. When the Howling Moon Wolf King passed by Song Jiyu, it raised its head and howled softly. Song Jiyu only reacted when the man and the wolf disappeared into the darkness. How much help did Li Zhongjio prepare for her? With this combination of man and wolf, it would not be a problem for them to kill their way to the headquarters of the Saber Axe Pavilion. Most importantly, this man seemed to be born to deal with such matters. He acted without any hesitation. Song Jiyu was even worried that this old man would not be able to complete his task. When Li Zhongjio gave her the note, Song Jiyu had already arrived at White Deer Alley. She found the old man and showed him the note. She also explained the purpose of her visit. The old man did not say anything. He immediately brought his little wolf dog here. When they saw the lightning flash, they happened to be nearby and immediately rushed over. They arrived just in time to kill the Deputy Pavilion Master. The way to deal a heavy blow to the enemy was naturally to act in such a way. Killing the Deputy Pavilion Master was also beneficial to Li Zhongjio. He only needed to create a disturbance in the market, and it would be easy to cover up the news of the thunder-slaying sword. And the most important thing was, the Deputy Pavilion Master of the Saber Axe Pavilion died at the place where the Blue Tiger Gang and the others were intercepting him. This was the most exciting part. Since such a situation had occurred, no matter which side it would be impossible for them to bow down. Unless the two forces were as strong as steel. If they could do this, there would be no estrangement. When the 4 guardian kings of the Blue Tiger Gang were all dead, Now that the vice pavilion master had been beheaded, the pavilion master had been beheaded. Normally, people would focus on their own losses. As for your losses, you'll have to make up for my losses first. Losing such an important role in the Blue Tiger Gang, the Saber Axe Pavilion's influence would be greatly reduced. Only in this way would Song Jiu have a chance. My chance is here. Since I've started, I can't stop now. Song Jiu said to herself. Song Jiu couldn't stay here for long, so she quickly left. In the process of returning to the top of the Golden Mountain, there were also people who could prove that Song Jiu did not leave the top of the Golden Mountain. It was impossible to suspect that Song Jiu was the culprit. After Song Jiu left, Li Zongjio was also watching this scene from afar. This woman is really ruthless. Li Zongjio could not help but ask. Without the slightest hesitation, she directly executed the dozen people in front of her. Originally, Li Zongjio wanted to kill these people himself. However, since Song Jiu was the one who did it, he wanted to see her performance. Based on her current performance, it was very good. As for the Boyu Casino, Li Zongjio did not ask too much about Taifai and the others. They were just some underground forces, and wouldn't involve any sections. Li Zongjio was well aware that these gold and purple yuan coins were nothing but a joke in the eyes of the real behemoths. What was the use of these things? When that day came, the real thing to fight for was the primordial stones. High-grade primordial stones. Only primordial stones could allow a faction to truly flourish and prosper. Things like casinos and gambling stalls were nothing in their eyes. The Yi clan's strength, compared to the level of Li Zongjio, an evil lord in his previous life, was just an ant. Obviously, as long as they did not touch on the business of primordial stones, there was basically no problem. If the Yi clan wanted to kill them, they could kill them. Even if the Sima clan wanted to kill them, they could also kill them. For a clan that could be replaced at any time, even if they had a firm grip on power, what could they do? If they wanted to kill them, it would still be a simple matter. However, there were some things that could not be touched. They absolutely could not be touched now. Otherwise, they would fall into a situation where there was no hope of reprieve. Even now, Li Zongjio had killed so many people in the Qingyuan manor. But until now, no powerful figure had come to deal with Li Zongjio. That was because these people were unimportant people in the Qingyuan manor. As long as it did not involve those people, there would generally be no problem. For now, Li Zongjio's strength was enough to deal with the Qingyuan manor. However, it was far from enough to completely destroy it. Now Li Zongjio was also accumulating primordial stones. Now he was just killing one person he saw. In the future, Li Zongjio would definitely find one person and kill one person. He would not be lenient. Li Zongjio's figure also disappeared. The Fury Dragon capturing was sent back. After all, it had been used before. Later, the 7 Stars Fire Room would also send a new Fury Dragon capturing to replenish the energy stones. Because this was the content of the contract, it had to be given to Li Zongjio. Even in the future generations, Li Zongjio would be the first to have it. In this primordial weapon conference, the Fury Dragon capturing was undoubtedly a hot item. Almost everyone was relishing and talking about the battle results. Of course, the most exciting battle was naturally the one where Luo Yunyang fought against the 12 experts. The strong controllability of the Fury Dragon capturing was naturally inseparable from Li Zongjio's control. However, if someone could do it, they could do it too. Many parties were paying attention to the developments of the Primordial Weapon Conference. Now that the King of Primordial Weapons had appeared, the 7 Stars Fire Room had immediately received hundreds of orders. According to the previous price, the price of owning such a powerful weapon was actually about the same. It was even a little cheap. This was because the price of the Sky Destroyer sword was directly set at 67 million purple yuan. On the other hand, the Fury Dragon capturing was set at 55 million purple yuan. Since they were all Yuan King level primordial weapons, the value of the weapons would naturally increase. Even the Southwest Sword Sect had personally made an appearance to place an order for the Fury Dragon capturing. The craftsmen of the 7 Stars Fire Room immediately entered an extremely busy state. Chapter 497. After returning to the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor, Li Zhongjiu did not go anywhere else. He went straight to the front of the Genius Tower. Because of his own strength, Li Zhongjiu was able to comprehend the various levels of alchemy again. He continued to progress step by step, which brought great enlightenment to Li Zhongjiu. Even some things that he couldn't understand in the past could be easily understood at this moment. Therefore, it was a very good experience for Li Zhongjiu to go through the Genius Tower again. At the very least, he could gain a lot from it. In front of the Genius Tower, when Li Zhongjiu appeared, he realized the light on the 11th floor of the Genius Tower was already lit up. Li Zhongjiu immediately stopped and looked at the scene in front of him. It was not only Li Zhongjiu. At this moment, it was already late at night, but there were still many people watching below the Genius Tower. Among them was Li Zhongjiu's class teacher Ling Yin. There was also teacher Kong, who was beaten up badly by Li Zhongjiu. The 11th floor, the 11th floor. Oh my god, why is this guy working so hard? It's too scary. Even Senior Guixi, who is ranked 3rd on the Alchemy Master ranking, only broke through the 8th floor some time ago. In just a few days, someone actually rushed to the 11th floor directly. So strong. This Li Zhongjiu is really fucking powerful. Someone could not help but say. Obviously, he was extremely envious and amazed by Li Zhongjiu's strength. There are experts in the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor that I have not seen before? Li Zhongjiu was also surprised when he saw this scene. Even if Qi Dan came, she might not be able to reach here. Because in here, the older one was, the greater the pressure they would face. The younger one was, the more care they would receive, and it would be easier to pass the level. No, this person's goal. Could it be that the Universe 9 revolving needle is also here? A cold light flashed in Li Zhongjiu's eyes. Although Li Zhongjiu did not know who this person was, he could vaguely sense that this person's goal seemed to be the Universe 9 revolving needles on level 14. This was because in the previous floors, as a reward for clearing the level, there would be some notes. As for how these notes were formed, Li Zhongjiu didn't know, although he had some vague guesses in his heart. However, Li Zhongjiu wouldn't jump to conclusions before he saw it clearly. This person probably did not have a sense of crisis before, because there were very few people who could match up to him. It was only when Li Zhongjiu appeared that this person became nervous. That was why he was attacking the building recklessly. From the 14th floor onwards, mysterious formations would appear every 3 floors. Comparatively speaking, the Universe 9 revolving needles was a set of very simple things in the Genius Pavilion. It was relatively low level. There was also a higher level of acupuncture. It would take time to comprehend it. In his previous life, Li Zhongjiu had been interested in the needle technique, but he had spent most of his time on alchemy and breaking through to absolute saint realm. Thus, he had only spent some time on cultivating the needle technique. He completely relied on his powerful talent to learn it. Li Zhongjiu, why are you here? Aren't you upstairs? A surprised voice came from beside him. When Ling Yin saw Li Zhongjiu in front of him, he almost bit his tongue. He was so surprised. Wasn't this guy going upstairs just now? Why was he here? Didn't that mean that the person who was going through the level wasn't Li Zhongjiu? Li Zhongjiu. I knew it. How could a thievish-looking person like you, who deceived his master and destroyed his ancestors, possibly enter the Genius Tower? Only those with a kind heart and virtuous character can enter the Genius Tower. A scum like you, Li Zhongjiu, can't possibly enter the Genius Tower. When Kongjue saw Li Zhongjiu, who was full of hatred, appear in front of him, he directly pushed the people in front of him away and pointed at Li Zhongjiu's nose and cursed. It had been almost a month. Finally, he found an opportunity to directly drag out this stinking shameless Li Zhongjiu. Now that you can't hide your foxtail anymore, I, Kongjue Master Kong, will teach you a good lesson today. I'll teach you a lesson. Otherwise, it would be difficult to eliminate the hatred in his heart. Not only that, he must punish Li Zhongjiu severely and let everyone know how powerful he is. Li Zhongjiu originally wanted to talk with Ling Yan and ask about the recent situation of Mist Mountain. But suddenly, this short winter melon rushed out and shouted. Then, this short winter melon actually gathered everyone around him and then started gesturing in front of Li Zhongjiu. Their words were sharp and incisive. Look, this is the person who beat up a teacher some time ago. His nature is extremely bad, and his character is extremely low. Such a person is immoral, and no one can learn from him. You must learn from him and treat it as a shame. He's a complete scum. Teacher Kong, be careful. Just when he was happily scolding Kong Zhuo, someone suddenly exclaimed. Then Kong Zhuo was startled. In the next second, he felt a gust of wind. Bang! Li Zhongjiu directly kicked Kong Zhuo and sent him flying. Kong Zhuo fell heavily on the ground. Just this alone was enough to break his butt. Li Zhongjiu directly waved his hand. His mental strength immediately wrapped around a stone beside him and shot it like a sharp arrow towards Kong Zhuo's head. Xiao! Kong Zhuo opened his eyes wide. He couldn't even see clearly what Li Zhongjiu was doing. But inexplicably, he directly felt that his whole body was tense, as if his whole body was being crushed by the momentum. His hair instantly stood up. Li Zhongjiu, don't! Suddenly Ling Yin shouted loudly. Li Zhongjiu's move seemed to be too slow for many people to react. Boom! The stone released by Li Zhongjiu steadily hovered in front of Kong Zhuo's forehead. At this moment, Kong Zhuo finally saw clearly what Li Zhongjiu was doing. If Ling Yin had been a little later, this rock would have directly smashed his head into pieces, exploding like a tofu flour. Kong Zhuo never thought that death would be so close to him. If it had been just a little bit more, he would have been finished. The stone hovered for a moment. Then with a plop, it fell between Kong Zhuo's legs. After seeing it, Kong Zhuo also felt a chill in his lower body. Then there was a fishy smell. Chapter 498. Teacher Kong Zhuo actually. He was so scared that he wet his pants. Kong Zhuo himself didn't feel it, but when he was about to get up, he looked down and saw that his legs were already wet. You. Kong Zhuo pointed at Li Zhongjiu with a trembling finger. Finally, under everyone's gaze, he didn't manage to catch his breath and directly fainted on the ground. How can you do this? If you kill Teacher Kong Zhuo, you will get into big trouble. Ling Yin suddenly said in a flustered and exasperated manner. How could there be such an arrogant student in this world? This Li Zhongjiu didn't dare to do anything, but when he made a move, he didn't show any mercy. I didn't intend to kill him. I just wanted to use this matter to teach these ignorant young people a lesson. Without strength, all they have is a glib tongue. That's the end result. Li Zhongjiu pointed at Kong Zhuo, who was humiliated to the point that he couldn't bear the burden and directly fainted. Previously, Kong Zhuo was scolding with vigor, but this time, he also directly fell to the ground, lying on the ground like a dead dog. Li Zhongjiu, who was scolded, stood in the same place as if nothing had happened. Such a scene made it easy for people to judge who was superior and who was inferior. They could immediately tell who was more reasonable. What was right? As long as one could live a better and happier life, that would be the real right. You child. When Ling Yin heard Li Zhongjiu's words, he was naturally a little angry. This kind of thinking was simply twisted logic. But even though it was twisted logic, it sounded a little ridiculous. However, Ling Yin also deeply knew that this sentence was true. But the premise was that you must have a very powerful strength. I will continue to enter the Genius Tower. After Li Zhongjiu finished speaking, he did not have any intention of staying, and directly entered the Genius Tower. Those guards on duty didn't know whether they should arrest Li Zhongjiu, because no one gave the order. Moreover, they were only on duty. As long as there was no trouble in the Genius Tower, and there was no problem in the Genius Tower, they generally didn't need to take action. Therefore, although Kong Zhuo was beaten up, they didn't receive orders from their superiors and couldn't take action. Even if they took action, it would be useless. Anyway, this guy was in the Genius Tower and couldn't run anywhere. One must know that the Genius Tower didn't have windows. You brat, you left the mess to me again. Ling Yin simply put his hands on his waist in anger. If using fists could make Li Zhongjiu obedient, Ling Yin would definitely take action without hesitation. However, it was impossible for Ling Yin to chase after Li Zhongjiu. Instead, he casually pointed at two tall men. You two carry Teacher Kong Zhuo to the medical hall. Yes. The two people who were chosen immediately had looks of grievance and unwillingness on their faces. Gotcha. Ling Yan casually moved his fingers as a dangerous glint flashed across his eyes. Upon witnessing this scene, the two tall men had no other choice but to lower their heads and step forward, submitting to the might of Ling Yan's aura. Kong Zhua, who was covered in a foul stench, was carried away. Don't look here, all of you are dismissed. Don't you have classes tomorrow? Also, the words of that brat just now. If anyone dares to take it seriously, I will cripple him. All of you go back and study hard, otherwise, I will make you all fail. Ling Yan suddenly said. When they heard the word fail, everyone fled in panic. How would they dare to continue staying here? Otherwise, if they failed, the consequences could be said to be extremely serious. Ever since he got these two students, Ling Yan had almost delayed his own cultivation. He couldn't wait to cripple these two people. This matter wasn't easy to deal with if he wanted to. Ling Yan was also helpless. What else could he do? Who asked him to be her teacher? Li Zongjio entered the Genius Tower. Since the 11th floor had already opened, there was no need to continue staying here. Therefore, Li Zongjio directly went to the 10th floor. Once he entered the deduction state, his perception of the outside world would be very low. Li Zongjio didn't see anyone on the 11th floor. He must have used some method to hide himself. After sitting down cross-legged, he entered the deduction state again. In the Heavenly Star Medicine manner, everyone's gaze was on the Genius Tower. Other than that, everything else was going on as usual. As long as Li Zongjio didn't make a move, the Heavenly Star Medicine manor would be relatively peaceful. In 5 days, the academies that were eliminated would have the opportunity to enter the second round again. Most of them wanted to give it a try, but there were also some who chose to give up because they knew their own capabilities. If they wanted to enter, it would be impossible unless the invigilator's eyes were blinded. If that was the case, there was still some possibility. However, Yao Lei was considered to have prepared well. Originally, she wanted to go to Li Zongjio's house to express her gratitude to Li Zongjio. However, she was told that Li Zongjio wasn't at home. Thus, Yao Lei left dejectedly. She could only wait until she entered the Heavenly Star Medicine manor. In the Sacred Flame Royal City, it was also peaceful. Everyone was still living and working in peace. However, in the Imperial Martial Pavilion, there was a huge uproar. In the Imperial Martial Pavilion, there were different small groups. Moreover, each group had a different name. The Imperial Martial Pavilion's method was to let these students compete with each other in groups. Currently, the strongest group in the Imperial Martial Pavilion was the Blazing Sword Alliance. When a core member of the Blazing Sword Alliance was sent back today, his face was filled with grief and indignation. He had never imagined that such a thing would actually happen to him. Therefore, when he returned, he immediately went to find the Blazing Sword Alliance. He immediately went to find the Blazing Sword Union's Union Master and told him all the grievances he had suffered outside today. What? You are saying that you were sneak attacked by someone from the Heavenly Star Medicine manor? The leader of the Blazing Sword Alliance, Lung Ao Feng, when he heard his subordinate say such words, he initially felt that it was inconceivable. However, after that, he was incomparably furious. This person didn't place him, Lung Ao Feng, in his eyes at all. So what if it was the Heavenly Star Medicine manor? Since this person dared to sneak attack a student of the Imperial Martial Pavilion, he must take him down. Moreover, the person who had attacked was one of Lung Ao Feng's men. If he didn't take revenge, how would he be able to recruit new people in the future? Chapter 499. Now all the members of the Blazing Sword Alliance were gathered together. Jean Buffon originally wanted to take revenge himself. But after thinking about it, he realized that the other party was a disciple of the Heavenly Star Medicine manor. If he acted rashly, the Martial Palace might even blame him for it out of respect for the Heavenly Star Medicine manor. That was why he found Lung Ao Feng. The Blazing Sword Alliance's Lung Ao Feng was naturally nothing. Jean Buffon would surpass him sooner or later. But the most important thing was that there was someone supporting the Blazing Sword Alliance. In fact, the entire upper echelon of the Blazing Sword Union had joined in the future in order to serve this person. That was why Jean Buffon had made such a move. He wanted to borrow the power of this society to fight against this person. That damned Li Zhongjie actually ran away after beating him up. Moreover, he hid in the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. No matter how powerful Jean Buffon was, he couldn't just barge into the other party's school and capture them. So what if it's the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor? Is our martial palace weaker than them? In the process of discussion, the upper echelons of the Blazing Sword Alliance expressed their opinions. Those who were able to sit here all had their own abilities. They wouldn't be put down so easily. Their words carried a lot of weight. That's not the case. No matter what, we must take back our face. Otherwise, the other associations will definitely make a big fuss about it. Someone said, "It's not easy to get into the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor to capture someone. If they were at the Imperial Martial Pavilion as well, it would be much more convenient. They could just bring people up and drag them out to give them a good beating, or they could ambush them on the path that they had to pass by. No matter how many people there were, they would rush out together. Taking action was the most direct way. But now that it was the people of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, they would probably be suppressed by the other party the moment they rushed in. Or perhaps, they wouldn't even be able to enter the door. This was a very normal thing. If young master is willing to step in, it shouldn't be difficult to get the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor to hand over the person." The deputy chief of the Blazing Sword Alliance, Wan Zhong, said. Usually, the ability of the Vice Alliance leader was higher than that of the Alliance leader. After all, the Vice Alliance leader had to go through the Vice Alliance leader first, and the position of Alliance leader was just a symbol. Of course, the Vice Alliance leader's ability had to be convincing. When they heard the deputy chief's words, everyone felt that this was the main point. Isn't it a little inappropriate to disturb young master over such a matter? Lung Aotian said with a frown. After all, this young master was not some idle person. If he directly went to disturb the young master, because of some trivial matter, he might even be punished. Don't worry, young master cares about the Blazing Sword Alliance. Moreover, I'm only here to hand the person over. If there's any problem, I'll settle it myself. It's not like I'm here to eat you, Wan Zhong said. If young master is willing to step in, then our Blazing Sword Alliance's reputation will definitely spread throughout the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. At that time, we might even have admirers in the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Hearing Wan Zhong's words, Lung Ao Feng seemed to have thought of something. His eyes lit up. This was indeed a very good way. A very good way. That makes sense. Not only do we have to dominate the Imperial Martial Pavilion, but if we can increase our reputation in the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, wouldn't that increase our prestige? Lung Ao Feng said. I'll immediately report this matter to young master. After Lung Ao Feng left, the meeting naturally ended. However, Wan Zhong found Jean Buffon and asked him about the specific situation that day. He had to explain every single detail. At the same time, he also noted down Li Zhongjie's name and asked someone to prepare a document about Li Zhongjie. You're saying that you didn't see his skills clearly? Wan Zhong asked with a frown. Everyone was a martial artist. Most of the time, if they relied on their eyes for everything, they would have died long ago. Most of the time, it was necessary to cultivate one's intuition. This was the most powerful method. Martial artists more or less had some intuition. In the face of danger and some sinister moves, they would be able to sense it. You're already a 7th grade origin ancestor, but you still couldn't sense his fist. Even with your physical strength, you couldn't block his fist. This person's strength is definitely not simple, Wan Zhong said. Among the alchemists, there was no lack of experts. Even in the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, there were many fighting geniuses. However, having a strong Yuan Qi cultivation did not mean that one's combat strength would be strong. This was the motto of the Imperial Martial Pavilion. Even when facing an enemy who was stronger than you, as long as you could make a calm judgment and think of countermeasures, you would definitely have a chance of survival. As for whether this chance of survival was useful, no one said it. This was because those who didn't were already dead. However, you don't have to worry. I've already sent people to investigate this person's background. No matter how talented he is, as long as he touches someone from our camp, He will either surrender or die, Wan Zhong said. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. Thank you, big brother Wan Zhong. Jean Buffon cupped his hands and said. Wan Zhong also smiled, patted Jean Buffon's shoulder and said, Go. After Jean Buffon left, Wan Zhong's eyes regained their cold killing intent. It's not easy to be a spy. If this Li Zongjio has some ability, it might become a tug-of-war between the Blazing Sword Alliance and Young Master. I have to quickly tell Young Master to get in touch with this Li Zongjio in advance. Wan Zhong saw a very unique opportunity in this matter, which was Li Zongjio's identity, a disciple of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. No matter what, although the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor was full of alchemy experts, in terms of martial strength, the Imperial Martial Pavilion was nothing in their eyes. However, these alchemy geniuses needed to be well protected. What Wan Zhong needed to do now was to intensify the conflict between Li Zongjio and the Blazing Sword Alliance. A good show is about to start. At this moment, both Jean Buffon and Lung Outyin did not know that they were gradually walking into a trap set by Wan Zhong. Chapter 500. The second day. Someone came to the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor from Chaowu Pavilion. They were looking for Li Zongjio. As a result, in this reception room, Ling Yan and a group of people in front of him who looked like adults, but were actually a group of little brats, sat together. Why are you looking for Li Zongjio? Ling Yan furrowed his brows as he looked at the people from the Imperial Martial Pavilion in front of him. The two institutions had been friends for many years. Even if there was a problem, it would be solved between the institutions. Since when did these students come to find trouble? Wasn't this just a joke? If it wasn't for the pressure from the higher-ups, Ling Yan wouldn't be sitting here. He heard that the background behind these people wasn't simple. Someone had greeted the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, so it was impossible to let this matter go. Hello, Teacher Ling Yan. I'm Chaowu Pavilion's Blazing Sword Union's Vice President Wan Zhong. My member told me yesterday that he had some conflicts with Li Zongjio. That's why I'm here. I want to confront Li Zongjio face to face. Let's clear things up so it can be solved easily. Don't you think so? Lung Aotian didn't say anything. The one who spoke was Wan Zhong. In these situations, Wan Zhong seemed to be able to handle it with ease. You guys really have nothing better to do. Who's your instructor? I'll look for him directly. Behind the establishment of every society, there would be an instructor. If something happened, the instructor would be responsible. However, most of the people who knew about the instructor were just in name. There wasn't much substance in it. We can handle this matter ourselves. There's no need for an instructor to come. If Instructor Ling Yan can understand, please make an exception. He hit our people. If it's not enough, an apology is necessary. As long as Li Zongjio can apologize and admit his mistake, our Blazing Sword Union won't pursue this matter. Wan Zhong said indifferently. As for Ling Yan, he rolled his eyes. You guys really think of yourselves as a tree. At best, you're just a cabbage. I think your assessment task is too easy. You guys have caused so much trouble. I'll talk to the Dean of Chaowu Pavilion later. Blazing Sword Alliance, right? I'll remember that. If I see any of you in the vicinity of the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor, I will throw all of you out. Ling Yan's temper was like a volcano, exploding at the slightest provocation. You actually want the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor students to apologize to you? What a joke. He had long said that these messy society systems should be abolished. Now they were all raised to be gang leaders and thought that they were very powerful. They even dared to negotiate with their teachers. In the eyes of these grade 5 alchemists of Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, these people of Martial Tide Pavilion were just some crude martial artists. Just casually refining a pill was enough to make these people bleed. They did not put these people of Martial Tide Pavilion in their eyes at all. Ling Yan directly slammed the door and left, leaving the members of the Blazing Sword Union sitting there in a daze. This was very different from what they had expected. How could it be like this? It was really unexpected. They never thought that these people would be so protective of Li Zongjio. Moreover, their attitude was so unyielding. Most importantly, they did not put the Blazing Sword Union in their eyes at all. If they were in Martial Tide Pavilion, The name of the Blazing Sword Union would be very useful. One of the three major societies. No one dared to provoke them. After all, Martial Tide Pavilion was a place where victory and defeat were decided with their fists. However, outside the boundaries of the Imperial Martial Pavilion, any association or the like would be useless. Furthermore, everyone's strength was about the same, so they naturally wouldn't bother with you. This was why their Blazing Sword Union was so unwelcome. For a moment, they found it hard to accept. However, they quickly woke up. What did this bitch say? Immediately, someone said angrily. They almost did not react in time. This woman slammed the door and left. When had they ever been treated like this? If the Blazing Sword Union went to other academies, they would be provided with good food and drinks. There would even be some beautiful female students who would accompany them the entire time. However, when they came to Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, they actually met with Ling Yan's cold face. It was really hard for them to accept. However, they could not do anything about it. Could it be that they had to rush out and capture Ling Yan and beat him up? Looks like Heavenly Star Medicine Manor has decided to protect Li Zhongjiu. This matter, we can only let young master step forward. Lung Aotian said in a deep voice. Obviously, their face was not big enough. That was why he was rejected so harshly. If that was the case, he could only bring out someone even more powerful. Don't worry, Union Chief. Young Master is just the beginning. Since they don't put Teacher Minghui in their eyes, let's inform Teacher Minghui. Wan Zhong said indifferently. Teacher Minghui was the instructor of their Blazing Sword Union. Looking at Ling Yan's expression, it seemed that even if Teacher Minghui was brought out, these people would not put him in their eyes. If they did not put him in their eyes, it would be just right to intensify the conflict. In this way, the Blazing Sword Union and Heavenly Star Medicine Manor would definitely be in a difficult situation. If they wanted to settle this matter, they would have to spend a lot of effort and pay a price. When Lung Aotian heard this, he first glanced at Wan Zhong and frowned. There's no need to report to Young Master. Of course, Young Master has already stepped forward. If Young Master appears one after another, what's the use of our Blazing Sword Union? Aside from this open confrontation, we must also take action in the dark. Send people to monitor the various exits of Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. If Li Zhongjiu is found, take him down immediately. In addition, Li Zhongjiu is a student of Heavenly STEM Department's A class. There's another person in his class. This person definitely knows the whereabouts of Li Zhongjiu. Take him down as well. I don't believe that he won't appear. Wan Zhong said. People who were born in the Imperial Martial Pavilion did not have so many rules to speak of. Everything depended on the size of one's fist. Whoever had the bigger fist would do the right thing. If one could not defeat the other party, then it was naturally a different matter. After being arrogant for so long, they were naturally used to such a style. In fact, in the eyes of these people from the Blazing Sword Union, there was no problem at all. Very well, we'll do as you say. Li Zhongjiu will definitely not get away with it. Lung Aotian slammed the table and left the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor with the people behind him. Before the battle had even begun, they had already suffered a defeat at the hands of Ling Yan. If it was someone else, then the name Blazing Sword Union might have some use. Chapter 501. Li Zhongjiu didn't know that because of his actions, a storm was brewing in the Imperial Martial Pavilion. Moreover, it was directed at the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Although it might not have any effect in the end, it would still affect Li Zhongjiu. Li Zhongjiu only knew that he was in the process. He was also trying his best to catch up with the other party. However, the Genius Pavilion shouldn't be anxious. They must fight steadily and surely. Li Zhongjiu naturally believed it. Although the other party had concealed his strength, it was almost impossible for him to catch up with them at this speed, except for the first few stages. Therefore, Li Zhongjiu wasn't in a hurry. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Li Zhongjiu took another step forward. He stepped into the 12th level. Li Zhongjiu's physical strength and mental energy had been greatly consumed on the 12th level. There were still 2 more levels to go, so he immediately retreated from them. This was like an enhanced version of intensive training. If he kept rushing forward, it was very likely that he would bring about overwhelming damage to himself. He must have a balance between tension and relaxation to be able to adjust his body's condition well. At the same time, Li Zongjio also needed to come out and see how much the outside world had changed in the past half a month. Most importantly, he also needed to check on the progress of the matters that he had instructed. Li Zongjio walked out of the Genius Pavilion. At this moment, he actually felt like he could see the sun again. The person who was originally in charge of the Genius Pavilion's key had been replaced. He found a mentor to replace him. This kind of job was originally an idle one, and there was no skill involved. Therefore, it was Kang Zhua's turn. However, Kang Zhua had lost a lot of face. Recently, he was too embarrassed to appear in the Heavenly Star Medicine manner. If he was seen by others and brought up again, wouldn't it be extremely embarrassing? As for Li Zongjio's behavior, although Kang Zhua condemned it, Li Zongjio was too arrogant. Almost no one in the entire Heavenly Star Medicine manor could subdue him. Therefore, Li Zongjio walked out of the Heavenly Star Medicine manor very smoothly. He came to the Great Pleasure Casino. Recently, the Great Pleasure Casino could be said to be at its peak. Tai-Fi was expanding without restraint. Although his strength wasn't enough, he had money and a backer. This backer could solve many problems secretly. As long as someone blocked his way, he only needed to hand Li Zongjio's house a slip of paper, and it would be easily settled. Therefore, Tai-Fi's path of annexation was exceptionally smooth. From the beginning until now, it had been nearly 2 months. Now several Gold Star Medicine Manor. And this was because Tai Feihe couldn't make the decision on these matters. In addition, the only official information left by Li Zongjio was the manor on White Deer Avenue. Therefore, Tai-Fi directly helped Li Zongjio to give him a name and become the head of the manor. White Deer Manor. Currently, 60% of the casinos in the city had been annexed by the Great Pleasure Casino. Together with the Golden Casino, these two giants took the lead and directly took the majority of the stones. Currently, in the Yuntong Bank, the White Deer Manor's account had an additional 46 billion purple yuan. And this number was still increasing. This was the initial income. The majority of the money would have to be distributed later. Currently, the wealth of the White Deer Manor was increasing by 5 billion every day. This was a part of accumulating wealth in the early stages. Once the situation stabilized, or if they were to fight a bigger war, this number would be depleted very quickly. With such a large number, coupled with the recent achievements, even Tai-Fi himself couldn't believe that he had such an achievement. If Li Zongjio hadn't forced him, he really wouldn't have believed it. However, most of the matters were solved by the people of the White Deer Manor. Tai-Fi was also very clear about this. If the problem of the Azure Dragon Gang had not been solved at the beginning, Tai-Fi wouldn't have had a chance today. Now that the Azure Dragon Gang's power was gone, they could only protect some of their remaining businesses. In addition, there was still the Crocodile Gang and the Blue Tiger Gang behind them. The Azure Dragon Gang's influence was not as great as before. The Crocodile Gang and the Blue Tiger Gang had a certain foundation before. However, this strength didn't spread throughout the city. Now in the city, these people could be considered to have a say. For example, the Great Delight Casino was one of the top establishments in the entire Sacred Flame Royal City. The remaining parts are basically in the hands of these two gangs. And there seems to be someone helping them behind the scenes. We can't fight them for the time being. Tai-Fi told Li Zongjio about the recent situation. Blue Tiger Gang? Crocodile Gang? Li Zongjio knocked on the table. Who supported them after they were defeated? Hearing Li Zongjio's question, Tai-Fi was secretly surprised. However, he knew about Li Zongjio's ability. He said in a deep voice, "Based on the information we have collected so far, it is very likely that the princes in the Imperial City are manipulating the situation behind the scenes." Tai-Fi said, "The princes manipulating the situation? It was almost time to appoint the crown prince. If these princes wanted to truly stand out and not be eliminated by others, then they must have their own forces. Only then could they survive this wave of turmoil. If they wanted to fight for the position of the crown prince, they would need a lot of money. Where the money would come from would depend on their own means. Therefore, it was very normal for the princes to be involved in this. Even some of the influential clans and business clans in the city had to find their own backing. Only by standing on the right side would they be able to achieve meteoric success and advance further in the future. If they failed, then what awaited them would be eternal damnation. Therefore, in the early days, there were very few people who could choose a team. Also, there is one more thing. What is it? Li Zongjiu asked. The Empress of 9 Victories wants to work with us. She has another gold-level casino under her control. What's there to cooperate with? Just swallow it up. Li Zongjiu said. Could it be that he was afraid of this? Behind the Empress of 9 Victories is the Pan family. Recently, we found out that the Pan family seems to have close ties with the 9th prince. In this underground, almost all kinds of information were flying around. Therefore, to be able to gather so much information was a testament to Taifai's strength. The 9th prince? If he wants to take my territory, even if he is a leak, he won't stand a chance, let alone the 9th prince. Let's go immediately. Today, I will personally take action. Chapter 502. Li Zongjiu naturally wouldn't fall for this bullshit prince's trick. So what if you're the 9th prince? If Li Zongjiu earned all this money, it would be for the sake of the Li family. He didn't expect that he, the dignified evil lord of this generation, would actually go to the sea to do business. This was simply a disgrace to a supreme being expert. If Li Zongjiu's cultivation returned to its peak, it would be hard for him to forget today's experience. However, Li Zongjiu and the others still hadn't left the Broad Delight Casino. They heard a few sounds of destruction coming from downstairs. Tell Li Zongjiu to get the hell out here. We just saw him come in. Otherwise, I'll tear down your gambling tables one by one. The people of the Blazing Sword Union had been guarding Li Zongjiu day and night. Who would have thought that they would wait for nearly half a month? They were about to go crazy from waiting. When they saw Li Zongjiu walk past them, they didn't even have time to react. When they finally reacted, they had to suppress the speed because they didn't have enough people. They only had 2 people to work in shifts. They heard that Li Zongjiu was a dangerous person. Of course, they had to be prepared. Otherwise, if they were killed by Li Zongjiu, it would be very shameful, and they would suffer another loss. Therefore, they followed Li Zongjiu all the way to the Broad Delight Casino. A student of the dignified Heavenly Star Medicine Manor actually mingled in a casino. He went straight to the casino as soon as he came out of the school. Obviously, this guy was addicted to gambling and wasn't a good person. They immediately left some people to guard the casino, while the rest went back to call for reinforcements. There were about 8 of them in total. 2 of them were high-ranking members of the Blazing Sword Union. They had the same status as Jean Buffon. The 2 of them made a prompt decision. If the 8 of them couldn't even catch one, then what was the use of keeping them? Therefore, the 8 of them directly rushed into the casino. Originally, they wanted to reveal their identities and directly arrest them. However, who knew that the people in the casino were very stubborn? They didn't even care about what club they were from. They didn't even put the Imperial Martial Pavilion in their eyes. They were just a group of students who hadn't graduated yet. Did they really think that they were masters? In less than 2 sentences, he directly attacked. Needless to say, the strength of the Imperial Martial Pavilion students went without saying. Even the current spectators of the Great Joy Casino were far from being a match for them. After a few rounds, almost all of them were defeated. The 8 members of the Blazing Sword Alliance also raised the corners of their mouths slightly. They were quite satisfied and happy with their battle results. Take down all the people around you. One of the higher-ups of the Blazing Sword Union stepped on the chest of one of them and said indifferently to the people in the casino, "The casino is closed today, all of you scram." A portion of the people left. After all, it was the first time they encountered such a situation. If they really killed in a while, the scene of blood splashing everywhere would be very cruel. However, there were still some people who continued to play by themselves. They didn't care about the words of these little brats at all. Such a scene often happened recently. However, it was no accident that all of them were solved by the Great Joy Casino. In order to better maintain the security of the casino, They paid a huge price to gather all the experts in the market, just to play a role at this time. Tai-Fi walked out and saw this scene. His face was incomparably pale. These young people were really arrogant. Did they really not know how to write the word death? They actually ran into Li Zhongjio's territory and asked Li Zhongjio to scram to see them. Who are you? How dare you make trouble in my territory? Tai-Fi said with a black face. These little brats in front of him dared to be arrogant in front of him. If he couldn't even deal with such a thing, Tai-Fi didn't need to stay here anymore. You are the person in charge, right? Ask Li Zhongjio to scram to see us. We are here to find someone, not to cause trouble. Not to cause trouble? Interesting. You injured more than 20 of my brothers. And you dare to tell me that you are not here to cause trouble? If I let you leave safely, then I, Tai-Fi, will become a vegetarian. Tai-Fi suddenly said coldly, these people are blind, blocking our way. They deserve to be injured. We are still giving you face. Hand over the person, and we will leave. Otherwise, even if we burn down your casino, nothing will happen. Do you believe it or not? The people of the Blazing Sword League said. It seemed that they were used to being arrogant. They even dared to threaten the people of the casino. In the face of these arrogant and stupid young people, Tai-Fi naturally wanted to teach them a good lesson. Hang them up. Tai-Fi ordered. Suddenly, a few people walked out from the surrounding basic passageways. There were a total of 6 people. However, the aura of these 6 people gave off an indescribable sense of oppression. It was so oppressive that it was impossible to pass through. One of them was wearing iron boots. Every step he took left a deep imprint on the ground. He wore a series of rings on his fingers. He looked extremely terrifying. His tall stature indeed gave them a great sense of oppression. This caused the 8 people of the Blazing Sword League to retreat. The other people were also filled with murderous intent. The aura released from their bodies almost forced them into a corner. It's them, the Six-Headed Butcher. A first-class adventurer team, the Six-Headed Butcher. Someone exclaimed. No wonder these people looked so familiar. As members of the Imperial Martial Pavilion, they would often accept missions from the Celestial Rain Pavilion to train themselves. Everyone would even become an adventurer of the Celestial Rain Pavilion and go on some adventure missions. Adventurers were also divided into ranks. Most of them were from the 1st grade to the 9th grade. This didn't represent strength. It only represented one's own experience and mission success rate. Adventurer teams were different. Legend had it that they were the lowest 6th grade adventurer teams and the highest 1st grade adventurer teams. To be able to become a first-class adventurer team, it was basically formed by some experts. Only with this kind of strength could he become the recruitment target of the major merchants when they were transporting goods. For a first-class adventurer team, the commission for a day alone would exceed 10 million gold yuan. The Broad Delight Casino was actually this rich. Just recruiting these people was probably a very expensive thing in itself. However, what they were worried about now wasn't just money. It was their safety. You know our name. Looks like you're not stupid. Then, the 6 experts quickly used their true strength to show these people that the realm of origin power didn't represent one's true strength. In just a few moments, they took down these children. 6 against 8. These 8 people didn't have much strength to fight back. Among the 6 people of the Six-Headed Butcher, the strongest was only a 6th grade origin ancestor. The weakest was only a 3rd grade origin ancestor. However, the average strength of the Imperial Martial Pavilion students was a 5th grade origin ancestor. The other 2 were 7th grade origin ancestors. However, it was useless. Chapter 503. Young Master, how should we deal with these people? Tai-Fi asked. Where did these people come from? Forget it. Just beat them up and throw them out. Li Zhongjio said indifferently. He wanted to find out where these people came from and why they came to catch him. It was a comedy to think that they could catch him with such a low level of skill. However, they were just some students. Since they were so arrogant, he would teach them how not to be arrogant. He didn't care where they came from. He ordered his men to detain these people. If anyone came to find him, they would have to pay a ransom of 50 million purple coins to take them away. As for killing these brats, There was no need to do so at the moment. Therefore, he decided to keep them alive for the time being. In the future, if they were more arrogant and caused more serious trouble, it would be very normal for their families to be destroyed. There was nothing strange about it. Therefore, if they really wanted to punish these people, they would have to nurture these brats and strengthen their destructive abilities. One day, they would provoke people that even their family elders couldn't afford to provoke. When that time came, everything would start to feel terrible. Tai-Fi led the way in front. 2 carriages and more than 10 fast horses flew towards the casino of the Queen of Nine Victories. Li Zongjio didn't do any business before, and he didn't have any concept of money. But now, after killing a few people and giving a few orders, tens of billions of purple yuan appeared in his account. He didn't need to work so hard to earn money and treat people's illnesses. Sparrow Saint Casino. The Queen of Nine Victories was good at playing Pai Gao. Therefore, the main gambling tables in her casinos were also used for these things. A large group of people came directly to the Sparrow Saint Casino and dismounted. Li Zongjio walked out of the carriage and saw the casino. The exterior decoration didn't lose to the Great Joy Casino, but it had a more Torreya aura. As a casino opened by a woman, it naturally had a different style. Even a different kind of service was available. In this casino, if your number of wins and losses reached a certain level, you would be given a special service. In addition, when you entered the casino, you could also choose a woman to accompany you to play. This method was naturally very novel in the eyes of others. There were gambles and games. Of course, he wasn't willing to give up such a good opportunity. Therefore, as soon as this kind of game was introduced, it was liked by many people. Now these people were lingering here, forgetting to leave, and for a time, it was all the rage. It was already close to afternoon. In the casino, other than some gamblers who stayed out all night, most of the people were just drinking free alcohol at the bar counter, waiting for the liveliness to begin. At the same time, during this process, they could find opportunities to make a huge profit. When Li Zongjio and the others arrived, the people in the Sparrow Saint Casino immediately became nervous. Tai-Fi, what do you mean by making trouble in my place? Before Tai-Fi and the others walked up the stairs and into the casino, they already saw the Sparrow Saint Casino's people coming out. The person in the lead was also acquainted with Tai-Fi. His name was Three Blades Lu. It wasn't that this person was good at the 3-blade slash, but because he had a total of 3 blades on his body. Ordinary people would have been beheaded by the time he made the second slash. Even now, no one knew where 3 Blades Lu's third blade was hidden on his body. Some people said that the third blade didn't exist at all, because 3 Blades Lu himself was the third blade. There were also people who said that those who had seen the third saber were all dead. So naturally, no one knew where it was hidden. A person with such means was naturally not to be trifled with. 3 Blades Lu had never explained his third blade. Many people in the underworld had to give 3 Blades Lu face when they saw him. So the Sparrow Saint Casino had always been very stable and prosperous. Aren't you being a little too rude, 3 Blades Lu? My young master only wants to take a look at your casino, and yet you've brought so many people to stop him outside. Who's the one who's not giving face here? Tai-Fi snorted coldly. Young master? The word immediately alerted 3 Blades Lu. Tai-Fi had been making a lot of moves recently, and even the Sparrow Saint Casino had been targeted by him. He had sent several ultimatums in a row, as if he would destroy the casino if they didn't submit. Moreover, he had also revealed all the people involved in this matter. It seemed as though someone was manipulating everything behind the scenes. The reason why Tai-Fi acted like this was because of this person's instructions. However, no one had seen Tai-Fi for so long. So many people thought that he was deliberately causing trouble here by using a non-existent name. And today the young master finally showed up. The crowd parted, and Li Zongjio walked straight out. Let's go. Tell your big boss to come out. Li Zongjio took the lead and walked toward 3 Blades Lu. Lu Sandow and the others couldn't help but feel nervous. They almost attacked, but Li Zongjio didn't care at all. He shuttled in front of Lu Sandow and the others all by himself. This kid was so bold. Was he not afraid that they would arrest Li Zongjio? Li Zongjio took the lead and walked into the casino. Three Blades Lu and the others were extremely surprised, because Li Zhongjiu's courage was really big. However, Li Zhongjiu's courage was enough to allow him to go in. After all, it wouldn't be easy for him to come out if he did something wrong after going in. You come in as well. The rest of you wait outside. Three Blades Lu said to Tai-Fi. The rest of the people were naturally not a threat, but in order to prevent the scene from becoming too chaotic, or to prevent these people from causing trouble, they directly blocked them outside, not allowing them to enter. Tai-Fi gave a few instructions to the people behind him, and cleared the carriage and horses to the side. After all, if this place became his territory in the future, it wouldn't be good to block the road with such great fanfare. After clearing the place, Tai-Fi also walked in. Li Zhongjiu was already sitting in front of a gambling table. Go and ask your big boss if he wants to bet a few rounds, or just talk. Li Zhongjiu said indifferently. The scene of Li Zhongjiu winning 10 billion, with 1 gold coin, was still vivid in their minds. In the end, the Great Delight Casino lost everything. If today's Sparrow Saint Casino were to play a trick, they didn't know if the Sparrow Saint Casino could withstand it. Are you guys blind? Young Master Li is here, and you don't know how to serve him with good wine. Chapter 504. A cold and elegant voice came from the stairs. Soon after, Madame Pan, who had an impressive figure, slowly walked down the stairs. She brought along a fragrant wind as she gracefully sat opposite Li Zhongjiu. I wonder what kind of wind blew young Master Li and Lord Tai here today. Madame Pan sized up Li Zhongjiu. Ever since the last time he saw Li Zhongjiu, he had a very strange feeling. He always felt that this person was not as simple as he seemed. Now that they met again, Tai-Fi, who was originally looking down on Li Zhongjiu, was now standing behind Li Zhongjiu. He seemed to be very willing to be a subordinate, a loyal servant. Previously, she had heard that Tai-Fi had become a young master after he left the Yi family. Now that she saw Li Zhongjiu, it must have been a long time. Tai-Fi's many big moves were all instructed by this young master in front of her. That was why he acted like this. Today, the two of them came to the casino for no good reason. It seemed that it would not be easy to get through today's crisis. You're Madame Pan, the Queen of 9 Victories? You're quite pretty. It would be a pity if you died today. Li Zhongjiu looked at Madame Pan and said slowly. When he spoke, he was so straightforward, so bold and unrestrained. In the eyes of outsiders, this was simply a rude behavior. Moreover, there was even a hint of threat in the end. Threatening the Queen of 9 Victories in her territory was undoubtedly a very foolish behavior. Shameless boasting. Seeing this, Three Blades Lu glared angrily. Then, a 3-feet-long saber suddenly appeared from his sleeve. It appeared in his hand like a magic trick, and he suddenly chopped down on Li Zhongjiu's head. Since the other party had already entered their territory, wouldn't it mean that he, Lu Sandao, was useless if he allowed them to continue being arrogant? During the entire process, Madame Pan did not speak. Although her eyes were still as calm as water, a cold glint flashed in her eyes. It had always been like this in the pugilistic world. A knife was hidden in a smile, and a needle was hidden in silk floss. Only the one who had the last laugh would be the real winner. Therefore, Madame Pan sat there and did not stop him. Tai-Fi did not make a move, because he knew Li Zhongjiu's style. It was not his turn to make a move. Li Zhongjiu stretched out 2 fingers, and easily caught the long saber that was slashing down. Li Zhongjiu exerted a little force with his fingers, and broke the long blade. With a gentle wave of his hand, the broken part of the blade shot into Lu Sandao's chest with a cold glint. Bang! Tri-Blade Lu's heart exploded. His whole body flew backward and sat on the ground. He looked at his chest in disbelief. A bloody hole the size of a fist appeared. He did not even have time to use the other 2 blades. In front of Li Zhongjiu, if Li Zhongjiu did not want to, he would not have the chance to use the other moves. Allowing you to make a move is already the greatest mercy I can give you. Even after Three Blades Lu's death, he had never displayed the 3rd slash. The bloody scene was incomparably shocking. It immediately alerted the people around them. They pulled out the weapons in their hands and surrounded Li Zhongjiu in layers. With a single command, 100 swords would be unleashed at the same time. slashing directly at Li Zongjio, cutting him into pieces. Seeing this, Li Zongjio and Tai-Fai behind him did not move. Have you thought it through? Even at this moment, Li Zongjio was still asking Madame Pan in front of him. It was as if Madame Pan was the one being targeted by hundreds of swords and not him. Could it be that Li Zongjio was blind and couldn't see so many shiny swords in front of him? Do you know what the consequences of your actions will be? Pan Sure said solemnly. If Three Blades Lu had killed the young man in front of her, then this matter would have ended today. However, she did not expect that Three Blades Lu would not even be able to walk out of this round before his heart was crushed by the young man. In terms of strength, many people could do it. Although Three Blades Lu was very fierce in this Dao, it was only limited to his level. There were still many people who could kill Three Blades Lu in a second. However, he dared to do it in front of so many people. With such courage, it would not be so simple to deal with. Li Zongjio's courage was outstanding, and he was ruthless. Only such a person could achieve great things. People who achieved great things didn't care about sacrifices. It was acceptable to sacrifice as many people as possible. Even if the Holy Flame Royal City was flooded with blood, Li Zongjio would not bat an eyelid. Show me the person behind you. In this Holy Flame Royal City, anyone who dares to stop me, regardless of whether they are a relative of the royal family, will end up the same. Which prince is behind your Pan family? Li Zongjio said directly without holding back. The words of the royal family were taboo among the people of the underworld. If it was said in public, it would be disrespectful to the royal family. If others found out, they would casually send people to wipe out the 9 generations of the person's family. It was a special period now. Some of the princes were preparing to fight for power and influence. The trump cards in their hands could not be exposed. Most importantly, as a member of the royal family, they were not allowed to interfere in the affairs of the underworld. On the surface, they were not allowed to form cliques. If they were found out, they would have to cut off all ties and might even be punished. Therefore, when these people were in battle, the people in the imperial court had to stand in their positions without leaving any traces. If they helped the royal family in the underworld, they had to do it in secret. All of these were the rules of the underworld. If this matter was brought to the surface, the prince would be tainted with filth, and his image would be tarnished. Therefore, this was a taboo. If he said it out loud, the prince would definitely hold a grudge against him and use some unimaginable power to hunt him down, causing him to disappear into nothingness. However, Li Zongjio was not afraid of this taboo. This was nothing. What was so great about it? In his previous life, Li Zongjio was even more powerful than Emperor Xingyan. He was on equal footing with the leader of the power behind Emperor Xingyan. Just based on this point, the courage and insight between these people were different. These people were extremely wary of the princes and the like. However, in Li Zongjio's eyes, these so-called princes were also people who would die. Sure enough, when she heard Li Zongjio's words, Madame Pan's face instantly changed. You don't want to live anymore. What nonsense are you talking about? Even Tai Feiha, who was beside him, felt his legs go soft when he heard this. This young master of his family was truly a fearless person. Killing the leaders of the underworld gangs, the Azure Dragon Gang, the White Snake Gang, and the like was considered as getting rid of evil for the people. It was nothing. If they were discovered later, they might even be praised as a hero. However, the people did not fight with the officials. This was the prince of the royal family. This was not something that could be casually ignored. Otherwise, the next thing that would be lost would be your own head. Once this wanted order was issued, there would be no place for you to hide in the 13 provinces of the Xingyan dynasty. Even if you went to the ends of the earth, you would still be caught and killed. All of you leave. Follow me. Madame Pan ordered everyone to leave. Fortunately, Li Zongjio only mentioned it briefly and did not reveal any information. These words naturally had to be said in this small room. She brought Li Zongjio and Tai-Fai into an office. Li Zongjio, what exactly do you want? Although this casino is managed by me, it's impossible for it to be under your name. The Pan family is the one behind the scenes. Although I don't want to, in order to survive, I can only work for them. If you can convince the Pan family, then this casino will belong to you. So what? Madame Pan was free and easy. It was said that Madame Pan's identity was pitiful. Less than a day after marrying into the Pan family, her husband died suddenly. Now, she could only live as a widow. The Pan family's power could not allow Madame Pan to remarry. This could be seen from her name alone. They directly took away Madame Pan's original name and gave her this code name. Li Zhongjie did not care about Madame Pan's fate. Madame Pan also knew that her words would not be able to convince Li Zhongjie. She immediately sighed softly. All right, I will tell you. The one behind the Pan family is the current emperor's ninth prince, Prince Xianming. Lady Pan finally reported the ninth prince's name to the imperial court. Behind the Pan family was the ninth prince's support. Similarly, Pan Jiayue belonged to the ninth prince's camp. Touching the Pan family was equivalent to making an enemy of the ninth prince. This was a choice that no sensible person would make. Where is the ninth prince? I will personally go and talk to him. Li Zhongjie was prepared to go and greet them. At the same time, he wanted to warn them not to meddle in his affairs and appear in front of him. Otherwise, they would have to bear the consequences. How would we know the whereabouts of the ninth prince? However, I heard that the Blazing Sword Alliance under the ninth prince is recruiting talents. Perhaps we can find the ninth prince among them. Madame Pan said faintly. Before they could come to an agreement, the door was suddenly kicked open with a bang. Someone had kicked it open. Where did this dog come from? How dare you cause trouble in my Pan family's territory? Chapter 505. The person who walked in was called Pan Hong. He was the second in command of the Pan family. He was considered the second in command. Most importantly, Pan Hong had long coveted Madame Pan's beauty. Unfortunately, Madame Pan was his younger brother's deceased wife. Even Pan Hong could not do anything about it. However, he would choose to get close to Madame Pan whenever he had the chance. Now that he heard that someone had come knocking on the Sparrow Saint Casino's door, he immediately brought his men here to show off his charisma in front of Madame Pan. He wanted to let Madame Pan know that there were many benefits to having an affair with her in the dark. When he rushed in, he saw a little kid sitting opposite Madame Pan. He immediately felt that it was a little funny. Since when was it up to these little kids to make the decisions? Second brother, it's fine here. Madame Pan hurriedly stood up and said, Sit down. Is this kid trying to take over my Pan family's casino? Ha ha, this is too funny. Little brat, come, take off your pants and let uncle see if your hair is fully grown. Pan Hong placed one hand on Li Zhongjie's shoulder and tried his best to mock Li Zhongjie. At the same time, he deliberately used some vulgar words in front of Madame Pan. Li Zhongjie listened and turned to look at Pan Hong with a smile. You want to see my fur? Then take out your bird first. The moment Li Zhongjie's words fell, Pan Hong suddenly felt his body tighten. Soon after, he felt a chill between his legs. His expression instantly froze on the spot, as he felt an intense pain assault him. In an instant, this piercing pain attacked his heart. However, when he opened his mouth, he could not scream. With a thud, a piece of flesh fell to the ground. At this time, the Pan family expert behind Pan Hong also realized that something was wrong. Their second in command seemed to have been attacked by the other party. The lump of meat on the ground, no matter how they looked at it, didn't look like that thing. How do you feel? Li Zhongjie said indifferently, a light flashing in his eyes. Pan Hong's body was not under his control. He slowly squatted down and picked up the bloody object on the ground. Under the control of Li Zhongjie's mental energy, he directly stuffed it into his mouth. When Madame Pan saw this scene from afar, she felt extremely disgusted and turned her head away. This was the first time she had seen such a scene. She didn't know what Pan Hong was thinking at this moment. He actually ate his own dick. The people brought by Pan Hong didn't know what to do. Looking at the scene, they felt that it was a little strange. Should they rush up to help? But what could they do? Second master, are you all right? Li Zhongjie removed the lock on Pan Hong's mental energy. Pan Hong's body immediately lost its restraints and rolled to the ground. He scrambled to his own team and grabbed his throat. Scarlet blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. It was a horrifying sight. Pan Hong couldn't accept it. As he grabbed his throat, he pointed at Li Zongjio. He roared with all his might. Kill, kill, kill him. Young master, don't worry. I'll do it. Naturally, Li Zongjio didn't need to deal with these small fries. Tai-Fi immediately took out a vicious dagger and rushed up to meet these people. Suddenly, blood splattered and limbs flew. One could see that these people's hands and feet were constantly falling in all directions. Tai-Fi was worthy of being called a fierce general. He didn't show any mercy when he attacked. Pan Hong also thought that with his name, he could more or less intimidate the other party. Among these people, who didn't give him face, but who knew that this big and small guy would be so ruthless, Pan Hong saw that the situation was not good. He immediately ran out of the house, wanting to escape. But before he could take 2 steps, Li Zongjio kicked him in the head. His whole body rolled down the stairs. Rumble! Pan Hong's head landed on the ground like a watermelon. His head instantly exploded. His bones and blood splattered in all directions. Just looking at it was enough to make one feel a deep sense of fear. Li Zongjio appeared in the attic on the 2nd floor. Tai-Fi also walked out of the pool of blood. He wiped the dagger clean and put it away. The dozen people that Pan Hong brought were ruthlessly killed just like that. The smell of blood soared to the sky. Tell the 9th prince that this place belongs to the White Deer Manor from now on. If he has any problems, he can find me at the Broad Delight Casino. Li Zongjio turned around and said to Madame Pan. Madame Pan looked coldly at the scene in front of her. This young man who suddenly appeared did not follow the rules at all. He did not follow any rules at all. If things did not go according to his wishes, he would just kill them and get rid of all of them easily. The bloodstains on the ground were already a very obvious announcement. She wondered what kind of mood the 9th prince would have when he received this news. Then Li Zongjio swaggered back to his Broad Delight Casino with his men. At this moment, a group of uninvited guests had already arrived at the casino. The Blazing Sword Union's Wan Zhong led more than 10 experts of the Blazing Sword Union to block the entrance of the Vast Joy Casino. Of course, Wan Zhong and his men had no way to rush in. The Broad Delight Casino was a place of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. If they rushed in, they might be ambushed. Let's say it one more time. Hand over my brothers from the Blazing Sword Alliance. Otherwise, your Broad Delight Casino will be closed. Wan Zhong said loudly. There were also quite a number of people watching from the streets. They wanted to see a good show. Kiki, don't say so much. If you want people, our young master said 50 million per person. If you want to rob, then come in and rob. The 6-headed butchers took the lead and stood in front. Recently, the Broad Delight Casino's funds were extremely sufficient. Therefore, they directly recruited a large number of experts. If they didn't recruit them, they would be recruited by others. Moreover, if they recruited in groups, they could get a discount. Otherwise, how would they be able to withstand the flood of enemies? What should we do? These people don't look easy to deal with. Even Wan Zhong didn't expect that they would encounter such strong resistance from the forces of the underworld. Who is the owner behind the Broad Delight Casino? Negotiate with them and ask them to release our people. There were rules in every place. Those people must have rushed in and been caught. They didn't know the specific situation. Now they could only negotiate or force their way in. Chapter 506. Wan Zhong wanted to use pressure to force the Great Pleasure Casino to hand over the person. If this matter was brought to the academy, then the people inside would still be punished. Not only did he cause trouble outside, he even provoked someone else's casino and was directly arrested. Even if he reported it to the authorities, it would be useless. After all, he directly broke into someone else's territory to do whatever he wanted. Then the other party naturally had the right to punish him. Deputy Chief, I've inquired before. Behind this Great Pleasure Casino, there seems to be a manor called White Deer Pursuit. You may not believe it, but the owner of this White Deer Pursuit manor is Li Zongjio. Someone brought back the information they had gathered. Li Zongjio? This little Li Zongjio actually had such a huge business. How did he do it? To be able to own a casino in King City. How rich was that? The water in this business was very deep. The slightest carelessness was very likely to be easily taken down. Maybe your future was bright in 1 second, but the next second, you were directly swallowed up by others. This kind of thing happened from time to time. Therefore, being able to persevere was the most important thing. A short victory was not a victory at all, because you simply did not know when someone would rush out and directly kill you. Li Zhongjiu? This casino is Li Zhongjiu's? Why didn't I know? That's bad. Wouldn't our brothers have all suffered a great loss in this casino? When he thought of this, Wang Zhong's heart tensed up. He did not expect that Li Zhongjiu deliberately led them to the underground gang's territory and used the gang's power to deal with them. Why was it not shown in the previous investigation information? Just when Wang Zhong realized that something bad was about to happen, from a distance, a group of carriages followed by more than 10 fast horses were rushing towards the Broad Delight Casino. Looking at these young people, it seemed that they were about to go all out. Tai Fei had dismounted and looked at the scene in front of him. Who are you people? How dare you cause trouble in my territory? Tai Fei had just slaughtered a dozen people in the Sparrow Saint Casino. At this moment, his body was emitting a cold murderous aura. The Pan family naturally wouldn't let this matter rest. Perhaps they would bring people over to kill him in a short while. Therefore, Tai Fei had to return to prepare first. But when he came back, he saw that some young people were fully armed and wanted to cause trouble in the Broadjoy Casino. Were they really going to rebel? You. Who are you? Wang Zhong also stepped forward and said. Looking at the domineering Tai Fei in front of him, he felt a trace of fear in his heart. However, among the members of the Blazing Sword Alliance, only Wang Zhong had the highest status. If he were to show any weakness, he would be looked down upon by the other party. Even if you lose, you can't lose. A bunch of cowards. How dare you show your weapons in front of my casino, when you don't even know who I am? Hurry up and get lost. Tai Fei shouted angrily. Although Tai Fei's yuan qi cultivation wasn't as high as these young people in front of him, the murderous aura that had been accumulating for decades was enough to completely intimidate the people in front of him. To be able to live to such an age in Royal City was not an easy feat therefore. What Tai Fei had experienced was naturally beyond one's imagination. Li Zhongjiu also stepped down from the carriage. It seemed that managing these casinos was quite troublesome. If you didn't go looking for trouble with others, then others would come looking for trouble with you. Yes, Li Zhongjiu. Deputy Alliance Chief, he is Li Zhongjiu. Jean Buffon immediately pointed at Li Zhongjiu and shouted when he saw Li Zhongjiu. It was as if the murderer of his father was right in front of him. However, at this moment, Wang Zhong also realized that the situation wasn't good. They might be able to bully the freshmen in school, but if they wanted to contend with these people, their murderous aura was far from enough. Otherwise, how could they say that ginger is spicier when it's older? In fact, they were already thinking of retreating. Therefore, Wang Zhong was prepared to bring them back first, and wait for Alliance Chief Lung Aotian to come out of seclusion before making a decision. Otherwise, this group of people wouldn't be able to do anything. Kill their way in. This wasn't a martial arts competition in the arena for a spouse. Every move could lead to someone's death. It was simply such a simple matter. Didn't you see the murderous aura on these people's faces? Li Zhongjiu also saw Jean Buffon. Li Zhongjiu didn't have a deep impression of Jean Buffon. However, Jean Buffon couldn't hold it in anymore, and directly shouted at Li Zhongjiu. Li Zhongjiu, on top of the Golden Mountain, you sneakily attacked me. Today, if you have the ability, let's fight one-on-one. I will definitely beat you until you look for your teeth on the ground. Jean Buffon directly shouted. Hearing Jean Buffon's reminder, Li Zhongjiu finally remembered that it was this guy. After saying that, Jean Buffon directly rushed out, as if he wanted to fight one-on-one with Li Zhongjiu. However, this Broad Delight Casino spent a lot of money to raise these people, so they weren't just for show. All of a sudden, several experts rushed down. People of Blazing Sword Alliance, listen up. Capture Li Zhongjiu. Wang Zhong immediately shouted. Since this situation couldn't be salvaged, they could only capture Li Zhongjiu first. The more than 10 experts he brought along instantly fought with the experts of Broad Delight Casino. Tai Fei also stepped forward bravely, blocking in front of Li Zhongjie. Li Zhongjie simply sat beside the carriage, watching these people fight in front of him. A fierce battle instantly broke out. However, the Blazing Sword Union was still inexperienced. Although they could rely on their powerful Yuan Qi to resist for a moment, in the midst of the chaotic battle, they would occasionally damage the torches beside them and injure their own people. Aya, your sword energy swept me. You idiot, who are you trying to cut? On the other hand, on the side of Broad Delight Casino, there were a total of 2 mercenaries. In addition to the 6-headed butcher, there was also a small team of 4, and 2 independent experts. To be able to force Broad Delight Casino to send out so many experts, it already showed that the Blazing Sword Alliance was not bad. After all, the threat of their cultivation was here, and it was difficult to ignore. In just a moment, the lineup of the Blazing Sword Alliance was immediately disrupted. Then these people were directly put on the ground. Most of them were caught. Let me go. Jean Buffon was the first to be caught. He realized that he didn't have a chance to use the sword skills he had learned in such a battle. Not good, let's retreat. Wang Zhong saw that the situation was not good and wanted to escape with the remaining 3 people. But when he turned around, he saw Li Zhongjie appear behind him. Good catch him. Li Zhongjie directly raised his hand and waved his palm. With his Yuan energy at the peak of 9th grade origin ancestor, it was easy for him to defeat these people. With just one palm, the 4 people were sent flying and fell to the ground. Immediately, several long knives were placed on their necks. Tie them up. Chapter 507. Li Zhongjie ordered. He immediately ordered the people in front of him to be tied up. Li Zhongjie, do you know who I am? I'm the deputy leader of the Blazing Sword Alliance of the Imperial Martial Pavilion. If you dare to touch me, let me go now and everything can be discussed. Wang Zhong immediately roared loudly. This mouth of yours is really asking for it. Li Zhongjie looked at Wang Zhong and waved his hand. The underling immediately understood and slapped Wang Zhong twice. Wang Zhong's mouth was full of blood, and his teeth almost fell out. It'll be fine if one person stays. Go back and tell your alliance master to bring the money to redeem the people. 50 million purple gold per person. Let them go as much as you bring. No money. That's right. Li Zhongjie casually pointed at a relatively young person. Looking at his appearance, he should have been carelessly tricked into joining the Blazing Sword Alliance, and directly became a thug. Originally, he wanted to use the name of the Blazing Sword Alliance to show off his strength. Who would have thought that he would encounter a local bully the moment he stepped out of his own school? If he had encountered other people, he would have casually taught them a lesson for the sake of the Imperial Martial Pavilion students. Then he would have let them go. It would have been enough to teach them a lesson. However, he had encountered Li Zhongjie. Li Zhongjie would not give them so much face. He would directly capture them and talk about it later. If they did not have money, then there was no need to talk about these things. Therefore, these Imperial Martial Pavilion students were directly locked up in the underground secret room of the Great Pleasure Casino. If these people were killed, it would naturally bring a certain amount of trouble to the Great Pleasure Casino. Behind each student, there might be a family involved. 1 or 2 wouldn't be scary, but if all of them joined forces, then it would be a big problem. However, as long as they were still alive, they would be valuable and would not dare to act rashly. It was also a good opportunity to teach these people a lesson. He would let them know that the underworld was dangerous, and that it wasn't something that could be done with a few courses in the school. The person who was released naturally rolled and crawled away. He did not even dare to say a word. This person was not a citizen of the Sacred Flame Imperial City. Instead, he came from a second-tier city. He had long heard that the Imperial City was filled with danger, and that everyone had to tuck their tail between their legs. He thought that after joining the Imperial Martial Pavilion, he would be able to show off his strength. However, he did not expect to encounter such a situation. From then on, he deeply understood the degree of danger in the Imperial City. After knowing how powerful these people were, he did not have the slightest hesitation, and immediately chose to escape. In the future, he would not dare to be so arrogant. The Imperial Martial Pavilion of the Imperial Martial Pavilion was. Furthermore, handcuffs made of special materials were used to handcuff these people's hands, making it impossible for them to use their own origin energy. When the members of the Blazing Sword Union were locked up, many people realized that they were in big trouble. This time they had finally provoked someone they shouldn't have. The one who suffered the most was Wang Zhong. Since he was the Vice Alliance Master and a small leader, he had to be punished as an example to the others. Soon he was given special treatment. The 6 of you follow me. On the 3rd floor of the Broad Delight Casino, there was also a practice room. After all, there was a group of people who lived directly in the Broad Delight Casino. The 6 people who were called were the 6 butchers. Although the 6 of them didn't know why Li Zongjio called them, they had seen Li Zongjio's power and heard a lot about Li Zongjio's legends. They were very curious about what kind of person this hidden boss was. Such a huge casino and hundreds of billions of assets belonged to Li Zongjio. Have a seat, Li Zongjio said casually. Then he took the lead and sat down. He took out a porcelain bottle and placed it on the table. How much is your salary? Among the 6 people, the leader was an old man. The old man wore a bamboo hat and a straw cape, but there was a sickle tied to his waist. Using a sickle to fight was very rare. Therefore, when the old man attacked, he directly cut the wrists of several people. If necessary, it wouldn't be a big problem to directly cut off their hands. 20 million gold coins per day. 20 million gold coins. That was 200,000 purple coins. In a month, they could earn 60 million purple coins. To them, this was already a huge number. Not everyone had Li Zongjio's ability to casually capture someone and ask for 50 million purple coins. First of all, you had to have the ability to detain the person. Secondly, you had to have the courage to open your mouth and ask for such a price. There were all kinds of situations. You had to grasp all of them. After all, their cultivation was only average. It was already very good for them to be able to earn such a price in Royal City. Not many people would be willing to recruit mercenaries from such expensive adventurers for a long time. This is the 5-soul origin pill, a 5th grade pill. It is enough for you to break through your limits, Li Zongjio said indifferently. He pushed the porcelain bottle in his hand forward. If one wanted to gain a foothold in Royal City and establish prestige, one had to be powerful. Pills were something that Li Zongjio could casually refine. In fact, in Li Zongjio's eyes, they were the most worthless thing. Probably only Li Zongjio would dare to be so arrogant. He didn't care about these pills at all. When the 6 of them heard this, their eyes immediately widened. Was this true? They had naturally heard of the 5-soul origin pill. If a Yuan Zone realm cultivator could take one, it would be of great help to their cultivation breakthrough. It was even the dream pill of a Yuan Zone realm cultivator. However, it couldn't be bought on the market at all. It would only appear occasionally at auctions. Other than that, one would have to find a high-level alchemist to customize it. If one wanted to customize it, not only would they have to search for and collect the herbs themselves, but they would also have to pay an expensive processing fee. It wasn't something that anyone could afford. Furthermore, the market price of a 5-soul origin pill was 30 million purple yuan. Even with their small team, they had to go without eating or drinking for nearly half a month before they could save up this much money. And it was only enough to buy one. Not only was it not enough to go around, most importantly, it couldn't be bought at all. Without a channel, it was simply not enough to have a small amount of money. Therefore, when they heard this, they could even feel their saliva drooling. However, the old man's gaze quickly became sharp. If there was only one pill in the bottle, wouldn't they have to kill each other? Don't worry, there are 6 pills in the bottle. Chapter 508. Li Zongjio said casually, as if the contents of the bottle were merely 6 ordinary jelly beans. However, after the initial shock and urgency, the 6 of them became vigilant. These elixirs were incomparably precious. If they were taken out so casually, it would not be a good thing. One must know that there was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. They had been in this world for so long. How could they not be aware of this point? For Li Zongjio to take out such a precious medicinal pill, There must be some sinister plot in it. Therefore, the 6 of them could not help but be vigilant. They all looked at Li Zongjio. These elixirs may be precious in your eyes, but with me, you can have as many as you want, Li Zongjio said casually. You have performed well today. These elixirs are your rewards. In the future, as long as you continue to kill for me, you will continue to receive elixirs. Only when your strength is strong can you kill more people. The elixirs were placed on the table. Although the 6 of them wanted them very much, they could not help but hold back. They did not rush up and snatch the elixirs. Are there really no other conditions? The old man in the lead asked again with uncertainty. If you are not assured, then return the elixirs to me. I will naturally hand them over to others. Li Zongjio said as he made a gesture to take back the elixirs. These old men were shrewd. When they suddenly saw such a windfall appear in front of them, they naturally could not bear it. That was why they were so suspicious. However, when they heard that Li Zongjio wanted to take back the elixirs, they became anxious. The old man grabbed the elixirs in his hand and looked at Li Zongjio with a smile. Yes, of course. Hee, young Master Li is so generous. We naturally understand. If you have any orders in the future, we will be at your service. Li Zongjio saw that the old man accepted the elixirs and got up to leave. He did this to tell those who worked for him. If they worked for Li Zongjio, they would have plenty of money. There were plenty of medicinal pills. 6 tier 5 medicinal pills in one go. Who in the royal city would be so generous? Even the South Heaven Pill Emperor would not be as generous as Li Zongjio. Although these were only primary level 5 pills, they were absolutely incomparably precious in front of these people. All these years, they had risked their lives in order to obtain these high-grade pills, and then use them to break through their own strength and realm, to become an even more powerful expert. Then he would continue to live. It was not easy to survive in such a cruel world. Therefore, it was necessary to obtain these resources. Those who had access to high-level resources were usually winners in life. For example, he could forge high-grade origin tools and refine high-grade pills. People like Li Zongjio did not even need to work hard to live a better life. As for those who didn't have access to these high-level resources, they could only live desperately, and then desperately earn money to buy them. Now that they were able to obtain the pills bestowed by Li Zongjio, it was an opportunity for them. After all, they had only just come into contact with Li Zongjio, and did not know what kind of person Li Zongjio was. Li Zongjio got up and left. Recently, he also needed to refine a batch of pills. Pills could be used to break through the levels in the Genius Tower. There were only 2 levels left. Li Zongjio was prepared to rush up in one go. It would still be somewhat difficult to break through just by relying on the Yuan Qi and mind power of a peak sky origin ancestor. Li Zongjio could either prepare some pills and combine them with his mind power to forcefully break through, or he could refine a pill that would allow him to break through his mind power and reach the Yuan Monarch grade. There were no problems with either method. It all depended on luck. It would be a good thing if he could find the ingredients to refine a pill that could allow him to break through his mind power. Otherwise, he could only engage in a protracted battle. At the same time, he also wanted to see if anything had happened in Wuxia city recently. Cultivation. In his previous life, Li Zongjio had spent almost all his life cultivating. Now he cared more about his family. The reason he had gathered so many forces in Monarch City was to pave the way for the future growth of the Li family. In his previous life, Li Zongjio had already reached the peak. It could be said that the peak was rather lonely. On the other hand, Wuxia city was as calm as still water. Everything was peaceful. Just the forces that had been left behind were enough to deal with some matters. Li Zongjio also went to hire an escort agency. He sent some of the pills that he had refined, which were only grade 3 or grade 4, to the Li family of Wuxia city. Since these escort agencies had accepted the task, they would definitely accomplish their mission. In addition to the pills, they also brought some specialties of Sacred Flame Royal City, such as roasted meat. This was considered a relatively common matter. While Li Zongjio was as calm as still water, Li Zongjio's expression changed. On the other side, the members of the Blazing Sword Alliance who had fled back went through a lot of trouble and finally found Lung Aotian. Recently, Lung Aotian was also close to breaking through. Who would have thought that Li Zhongjie, who was causing trouble, would appear? Therefore, many things were delayed. Although Lung Aotian was the leader of the Blazing Sword Alliance, his cultivation had to be constantly improved. Otherwise, even if he could stay by the young master's side, he would only be a piece of trash. What the young master needed was a truly powerful battle aid. They weren't just a motley crew. However, there seemed to be something that had been hindering Lung Aotian, causing him to be unable to take this final step. When his subordinates found Lung Aotian and explained what had happened, Lung Aotian was shocked. Lung Aotian was instantly enraged. No wonder I felt that something was wrong recently. It turns out that this matter was hindering me. A mere Li Zhongjie won't be able to stop my cultivation. In Lung Aotian's opinion, it must be because of this Li Zhongjie's matter that affected his cultivation. When he went out, he would first eliminate this Li Zhongjie. Then, he would be able to focus on breaking through. Gather the remaining members of the Blazing Sword Alliance. I will personally make a trip to the Great Pleasure Casino to get them. This Li Zhongjie was really crazy about money. Not only did he kidnap the members of his Blazing Sword Alliance, he even dared to ask for a ransom of 50 million purple yuan. Could it be that this money fell from the sky? When Lung Aotian saw the few people gathered in front of him, his eyes immediately widened. Fuck. How many of our people did that brat capture? Alliance leader, including the vice alliance leader, a total of 22 people were captured. The person who had escaped earlier said. What? The various small and large societies in the Imperial Martial Pavilion could not exceed 30 people. Otherwise, if a society directly recruited hundreds of people, wouldn't it be a mess? A total of 30 people. Right now there were a total of 22 people who were captured. Chapter 509. It was no wonder that Lung Aotian was so shocked. No one had ever encountered something like this before. For something like this to happen, it was an embarrassing matter for the Blazing Sword Alliance. Therefore, they could not report this matter to the young master. If they went to the young master for everything, wouldn't the young master be the one who had to clean up their mess? The Blazing Sword Alliance's future existence was to help the young master solve his problems, and not to seek his help whenever there was a problem. Damn it! Lung Aotian looked at the people before him. Even if they went, they would only be courting death. Therefore, no matter what, he had to bring them over. Seems like I'll have to make a trip to the Elite Alliance. The Elite Alliance was a group that was on par with the Blazing Sword Alliance. Furthermore, the relationship between the two groups was pretty good. Right now, the Blazing Sword Alliance was practically devoured by the other party. In order to successfully rescue the people in his own group, he had to seek help from the Elite Alliance. Other than that, he could not rely on the power of his family. The more talented a person was, the more they believed in their own strength. Only by relying on their own strength could they truly guarantee their own safety. They wouldn't easily ask for help from the forces behind them. If they were to ask for help from their families, it would be a very shameful thing. After all, they were all adults. If they could not even handle such small matters, wouldn't it be even more laughable? The Elite Alliance was a rather famous existence in the Imperial Martial Pavilion. They had 28 fixed members. Every semester, there would be a final evaluation. If someone's strength did not pass, they would definitely be kicked out. They would continue to recruit new people. The requirements were extremely high. The Elite Alliance's strength was also extremely strong. In the courtyard where the Elite Alliance was located, a young lady was sitting cross-legged. There were 3 longswords hovering around her. Everything around her seemed to have entered a state of stillness. Suddenly, there seemed to be some movement in the courtyard. The 3 swords instantly turned into 3 streaks of sword light and shot forward. Their speed was so fast that it seemed as though it was just a blink of an eye. They had already flown in front of her. Lung Aotian stopped in his tracks, looking at the 3 flying swords that were emitting a chilling aura in front of him. Lung Aotian was slightly shocked in his heart. However, he still cleared his throat. Ahem, Tianshui, you don't have to be so nervous. Could it be that I can't enter the Elite Alliance's compound? The relationship between Lung Aotian and the Elite Alliance was very simple. Before becoming the leader of the Blazing Sword Alliance, Lung Aotian was a member of the Elite Alliance. Moreover, his position was not low. Later on, when he joined the young master, he left the Blazing Sword Union and became the leader of the Blazing Sword Union. The woman before him was Yi Tianshui. In the Elite Alliance, he was ranked 6th in terms of strength. He was also one of the higher-ups of the Elite Alliance. Why did you come back? Yi Tianshui said faintly. As a senior figure in the Elite Alliance, Yi Tianshui was considered an outstanding existence in the Imperial Martial Pavilion. He was also an iconic figure in the Elite Alliance. Lung Aotian, who had always been fierce, could not help but stutter when he saw Yi Tianshui today. It seemed like he wanted to say something but hesitated. However, in the end, he still told her everything. You guys are really bold. Do you really think that you can be arrogant and self-righteous just because of some rankings in the Imperial Martial Pavilion? Those people outside have been trained with real swords and spears. Just this murderous aura alone is not something that we can learn. Yi Tianshui said. However, looking at Lung Aotian's expression, it seemed like he could not hold on any longer. He originally came to ask for help, but who knew that he would encounter Yi Tianshui, resulting in him having to listen to a lecture here. The rest of the people have gone out for training. I will accompany you, Yi Tianshui said. After all, Lung Aotian and Lung Aotian were once comrades in arms. Therefore, Lung Aotian wouldn't neglect him. In addition, Lung Aotian was a good person. The reason why he jumped ship to the Blazing Sword Union was because of some political reasons. In another year's time, Yi Tianshui would graduate. After graduation, his goal was to return to his hometown in Wuxia City and protect his city. Therefore, Yi Tianshui did not participate in these matters. Even Lung Aotian had repeatedly come to persuade him, but he failed to succeed. With Yi Tianshui's talent and strength, naturally, many people would pay attention to him. They even hoped to recruit Yi Tianshui under their banner. Then, they would definitely have one more powerful warrior. For the recruitment of these elite talents, the major forces were also racking their brains. They promised some very generous conditions and released various signals. It was not surprising even if it was through marriage. The most important thing was to retain the talent. Some powerful forces naturally needed someone to manage them. If there were a lot of geniuses, then they must have unlimited potential. However, if the younger generation was mixed with good and bad people, then it was very likely to lead to a decline. Of course, this kind of thing still needed to be done according to one's ability. Otherwise, if excessive recruitment was uncontrollable and led to saturation, it would also accelerate the consumption of the headquarters. Lung Aotian was naturally happy when he heard that Yi Tianshui was willing to help him. In terms of strength, there was not much difference between the two of them. With Yi Tianshui's help, the Blazing Sword Alliance would undoubtedly have one more trump card. What's the background of the other party? Do you know? Yi Tianshui tried his best to obtain as much information as possible while walking. It was very important to know one's enemy as well as oneself. I heard that he's a disciple of Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. His name is Li Zongjio. Lung Aotian frowned and said, What did you say? What's his name? Yi Tianshui's footsteps suddenly stopped as he looked at Lung Aotian with a shocked expression. Lung Aotian was also very surprised. It could be said that he had never seen such a scene before. Even in the face of a disaster, he had never seen such an expression on Yi Tianshui's face. His name is Li Zongjio. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Lung Aotian asked. After hearing the name, Yi Tianshui's originally sparkling big eyes widened again. It was obvious that his pupils continued to shrink after enlarging. Is Li Zongjio also from Wuxia City? After a long while, Yi Tianshui said slowly. At this moment, Yi Tianshui's eyes were filled with a trace of seriousness. Also from Wuxia City. When Lung Aotian heard Yi Tianshui's words, he seemed to have recalled that there was indeed such a crucial piece of information. Chapter 510. Yi Tianshui was already feeling a little angry. When Li Zongjiu arrived, her grandfather, who was far away in Wuxia city, had already sent a letter to her, asking her to take good care of Li Zongjiu. After all, it was not easy for Li Zongjiu to come to Sacred Flame Royal City alone. However, Yi Tianshui did not take this matter to heart at that time. After all, in her opinion, Li Zongjiu must have used his connections to get her grandfather to take care of him. If it was a small matter, it wouldn't be a problem for Yi Tianshui. However, the premise was that Li Zongjiu was worthy of her help. Recently, Yi Tianshui had been busy with the matter of his breakthrough. Therefore, she did not pay much attention to Li Zongjiu's matter. Now that she had bumped into Li Zongjiu, who came from the same place, she thought that if Li Zongjiu studied hard and entered Celestial Day Medicine Manor, he would naturally cultivate the art of alchemy well. Who would have thought that he would be fooling around with these people and working in this casino? This really disappointed Yi Tianshui. Sacred Flame Royal City itself was a training ground. There were too many temptations here. If one did not have a firm belief, it would be difficult to maintain one's original heart. If one continued to cultivate, they would sooner or later lose themselves in this materialistic environment. Obviously, in Yi Tianshui's opinion, Li Zongjiu had already strayed onto the evil path. This made Yi Tianshui a little angry. She even felt like she expected better from him. Although she had not seen Li Zongjiu yet, she had already vaguely felt that way. Li Zongjiu must have been greedy for money. Therefore, he had directly strayed onto the evil path. You're lucky that you met me this time. If you met someone else next time, it would be a life and death feud. Yi Tianshui sighed in her heart. In her opinion, she might be able to spare Li Zongjiu's life today, and give Li Zongjiu a chance to turn over a new leaf. However, if Li Zongjiu was unwilling, then he could not blame her. Furthermore, this opportunity was given to him for the sake of his grandfather. Well, that was what Yi Tianshui thought. However, at this moment, Li Zongjiu did not know that there was already a fellow villager who was prepared to let him go. If Li Zongjiu were to find out about this, he would really let her experience what it meant to be an upright and plain-spoken slap. Li Zongjiu also walked into the Thousand Flavors Herb Hall. Although the herbs in the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor were cheap, they were all standard herbs. In other words, they were all elixirs. For example, some of the herbs that Li Zongjiu needed to refine a 6th-grade elixir. He asked the old man in the library to find some of the herbs. Those were some deadly poisons, which could not be bought in ordinary places. Some of the herbs were even listed as forbidden drugs in the Shengyan dynasty. It was very difficult to buy them. However, if Li Zongjiu wanted to get these herbs, he naturally had a way. When Li Zongjiu arrived at the Thousand Flavors Herb Hall, immediately, someone came up to him. "Welcome, young Master Li." Looking at the beautiful maid in front of him, Li Zongjiu was also puzzled. He had not come to the Thousand Flavors Herb Hall before. How did the person in front of him know him? Could it be that she had mistaken him for someone else? In this life, Li Zongjiu did not want to be famous. However, the resources in his hands were necessary. "You know me?" Li Zongjiu asked. "Our Thousand Flavors Herb Hall pays attention to the news of all the alchemists and pharmacists in the city. Young Master Li is this year's top freshman in the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor. Moreover, you are an imperial alchemist. In our Thousand Flavors Herb Hall, you have long been well known," the maid said with a faint smile. At this moment, Li Zongjiu also understood that the Thousand Flavors Herb Hall could be so big. It was not without reason. Doing these things to the extreme, and being prepared at any time, there would not be a problem. Therefore, the Thousand Flavors Herb Hall would not miss Li Zongjiu's arrival. Alchemists did not come to the herb hall to eat. They would consume more or less. Naturally, it was a big business. With Li Zongjiu's identity, coming to the Thousand Flavors Herb Hall was naturally not an ordinary business. Of course, there was a big business inside. "Young Master Li, please wait a moment. Our Thousand Flavors Herb Hall's chief will personally come to receive you," the maid said with a smile. Chatting with such a maid was indeed a comfortable feeling. Therefore, there was no problem, even if Li Zongjiu had to wait here. Soon, Li Zongjiu also saw a middle-aged man hurrying over. When he saw Li Zongjio, his face was even more excited and apologetic. "Oh, sorry. I was just dealing with some matters and neglected young Master Li. I am Thousand Flavors Herb Hall's chief, Huang He. Young Master Li, please come upstairs. Please come upstairs." When Huang He met, his face was filled with sincere apologies. In fact, Li Zongjio did not have any problems now. He had only waited here for a few minutes. Of course, if the Thousand Flavors Herb Hall's attitude was arrogant, it would naturally be a different matter. Things weren't that simple anymore. "It's fine. Lead the way." Li Zongjio waved his hand. The position of the chief was more or less a manager. In this Thousand Taste Herb Hall, he naturally had a lot of status and resources. With such a status, even when facing Li Zongjio, the top of the freshman roll, he would not have such an attitude. If there was a reason, it must be because of Li Zongjio's Imperial Alchemist qualification. It was because of such a golden signboard that the chief of the Thousand Flavors Herb Hall's Royal City shop had such an attitude. Otherwise, if the top of the freshman roll appeared every year, Huang He would not be able to straighten his back. Not to mention other achievements, such as the ranking on the alchemist roll. Naturally, the weight was impeccable. Huang He invited Li Zongjio to a reception room. He personally poured a cup of tea for Li Zongjio. "Young Master Li, may I know what you need from our Thousand Flavors Herb Hall?" Huang He asked directly. From the contact just now, he roughly knew that Li Zongjio was not a person who liked to beat around the bush, nor was he a person who liked to chat. Therefore he spoke directly. As for the medicinal herbs downstairs, he naturally did not bring Li Zongjio to see them. Although there were many good things in those medicinal herbs, they were nothing compared to the medicinal herbs building of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Most of the requirements could be met. Only some special requirements could not be met. Chapter 511. Naturally, Huang He was also knowledgeable. Li Zongjio's performance was quite famous in the alchemy circle. So Huang He also knew that if he wanted to buy some ordinary herbs, there was no need for him to come to Thousand Flavors Herb Hall in person. "Can you find the demonic lotus?" Li Zongjio asked directly. Demonic lotus? Huang He was completely shocked when he heard Li Zongjio's words. Although he had already prepared for what Li Zongjio needed, Huang He couldn't help but sit up straight when he heard what Li Zongjio wanted. If he didn't sit properly, he would probably slip and kneel on the ground. The origin of the demonic cloud flower wasn't simple. There were very few people who knew about it. Once there was a very small country at the border of the Xingyan dynasty. The country's territory was not large, but its civilization was very glorious, and its system was perfected late. At that time, the Xingyan dynasty was constantly expanding. Originally, the demonic lotus was ready to surrender because they weren't warlike, but a general was sent out and ordered a massacre. Nearly 2 million people in the Demon Cliff Kingdom were slaughtered in an instant. The border was sealed, and no one could escape. The land and buildings in this country were also cleaned up. Even all the information about the Demon Cliff Kingdom had been burned to the ground. When the Xingyan dynasty was first established, it didn't want to bear the name of an executioner. Even those who knew about this matter had their entire families destroyed, causing many people to no longer dare to mention this matter. The history of the demonic lotus was nearly 500 years old. On the original land, flowers and plants with deep resentment gradually grew. The appearance of these flowers was only a kind of gray. At first it was gray, but once someone approached it, their soul would be directly sucked away. When the number of souls absorbed gradually increased, the demonic lotus would show a black state. The more souls it absorbed, the deeper the color. Most importantly, this flower was extremely difficult to destroy. Even if its roots were cut off, it wouldn't die. If it was brought to a crowded place, it would definitely absorb a lot of souls. It would cause great panic. It could be said that it was an invisible thing that could kill people. Therefore, once the demonic lotus appeared, the government must be notified, and the government would immediately send people to destroy it. There was a rumor among the people that the demonic lotus appeared because the people of the demonic lotus came back to take revenge. After all, millions of their people were directly killed and buried. One had to know that so many people had been beheaded. More importantly, when they had clearly surrendered, the tyrannical general ordered a massacre. This was a dark history that could never be erased. Therefore, when Li Zongjiu mentioned this term, Huang He became restless. If someone were to hear this, Huang He might just lose his head. This thing is forbidden, Huang He said in an extremely serious tone. If this matter was known by others, he would be finished. She thought that the herbs that Li Zongjiu was looking for were just some precious herbs, or herbs that were highly toxic. However, he didn't expect Li Zongjiu in front of him was actually looking for this forbidden thing. If he was found to be looking for this forbidden thing, the consequences would be very serious. There would be no chance for him to regret it. However, although this was a forbidden thing, Huang He didn't directly reject or deny it. At this moment, how long will it take? Li Zongjiu asked indifferently. Since you didn't say no, I'll take it that you agree. Within a month. That's too long. 3 days. Li Zongjiu said. Young Master Li might not know the market. This is a forbidden thing. Even the slightest bit of information about it can't be leaked. If the slightest bit of information is leaked, perhaps he will lose his head. Huang He couldn't help but say. That's why the search and delivery cycle is naturally long. 10 million purple yuan. If it's 1 day earlier, double the price. If it's 2 days earlier, triple the price. Here's a deposit of 5 million purple yuan. Payment will be made when the goods are delivered. Li Zongjiu said. It wasn't that he was stingy, but this method was beneficial to speed up the pace. If they couldn't keep up with the speed, a lot of things would be delayed. It's a deal. I guarantee that the thing will be delivered to young Master Li within 3 days. But young Master Li, there are rules in this business. According to the rules, once the thing is in your hands, it has nothing to do with us. Huang He looked at Li Zongjiu and said. These words had to be said first. If there was no way to guarantee absolute safety, Huang He would rather not do this kind of business. This was because the demon camel flower had touched the dynasty's sore spot. If it was known by others, even the 1,000-taste herb hall would be in trouble. Therefore, it was better to say these words clearly. Don't worry, Li Zongjiu said. Then Li Zongjiu stood up and left. Huang He hurriedly received the money and came to see him off. As expected of the imperial alchemist. Recently, Li Zongjiu's name had gradually become famous in Royal City. Many people could even hear the name Li Zongjiu in different places. He was like a real mad dragon. It couldn't be hidden. Even if he casually leaked some of his overbearing aura, it was enough to shock the world and cause a certain degree of shock. 10 million purple yuan. How generous. After Huang He sent Li Zongjiu away, he thought back to the business he had just received. Just the 5% commission would be a total of 500,000 purple yuan. All he needed to do was to receive Li Zongjiu and bear some of the risks. In terms of value, the demonic camel flower was practically worthless. After all, no one was willing to touch such an item. Although it was dangerous, there were ways to deal with it. The most important thing was to ensure that the news didn't leak out. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if they were targeted. What Huang He needed to do next was to ensure the safety of the business. 50 million gold coins. These scholars are so fucking rich. Just a casual move, and it was worth 10 million. And it was purple yuan. This naturally made Huang He envious. Chapter 512. Inside the Great Joy Casino. Each of the 6 butchers received a 5-soul essence pill. Naturally, they couldn't help themselves when such a pill was in their hands. However, these people were also cautious. If one of them took the pill first, and there were no problems, then everyone would be happy. If he could break through, then everyone would be even more excited. However, if he took poison, and there was even the slightest problem, then it would be convenient for the remaining 5 people to avenge him. In that case, he wouldn't die for no reason. At least there would be someone to avenge him. In the end, the 6 people drew lots, and one of them took the pill. Although there was a 90% chance that the pill was real, it was never wrong to be careful. After an hour, a tyrannical aura seeped out from the practice room. The 5 people who were waiting bitterly outside also felt this tyrannical aura, and their faces immediately revealed shocked and pleasantly surprised expressions. Success! When that person walked out of the practice room, the remaining 5 people were extremely excited. I broke through. Grade 6 Origin Ancestor. I have reached Grade 6 Origin Ancestor. Furthermore, my previous internal injuries have all healed. The person said excitedly. The effect of this pill was so powerful that he had never imagined that it would actually have such a terrifying effect. Just this pill alone made him feel as if his entire body had been sublimated. The subsequent breakthrough seemed to be a matter of course. Not only that, but the internal injuries that had accumulated in his body over the years had also been healed. It was simply a healing panacea. The breakthrough in his cultivation had also directly broken through 2 grades. Before this, he had only been a Grade 4 Origin Ancestor. Now he had directly reached Grade 6 Origin Ancestor. Such a tyrannical change in strength couldn't help but be shocked. It was even extremely inconceivable. It was truly astonishing. When the other 5 companions saw this change, they naturally rushed into the practice room without a doubt, and couldn't wait to take the pill and consume it. After another hour, the other 5 members of the 6-headed butchers also walked out of the training room in high spirits. Among them, 3 of them had reached the cultivation of a rank 6 Origin Ancestor, while the other was a rank 7 Origin Ancestor. As for the old man leading the group, Tu Fu, he had directly broken through to the 8th grade Origin Ancestor realm. Moreover, he looked completely different from an old man in his 60s or 70s. Every part of his body seemed to be full of vitality. This immediately raised the overall level of the 6-headed butcher to a whole new level. The current 6-headed butcher was definitely able to squeeze through the threshold of a true first-rate expert in this city. He would directly become a first-rate expert. However, when the 6-headed butcher reappeared in front of everyone, he did not hide his tyrannical aura at all. Everyone was amazed and shocked by the changes in the 6-headed butchers. They had not expected that the strength of the 6-headed butchers would actually achieve a collective breakthrough in such a short period of time. However, after some idle chatter, they immediately found out that the 6-headed butchers had met Li Zhongjiu alone. After some deliberation, they also found out that these people had actually consumed Li Zhongjiu's pill. Li Zhongjiu had bestowed the pill. Previously, they had also heard that Li Zhongjiu was a new disciple of the Tianqian medicine manor. However, this identity did not mean anything. Everyone knew that Li Zhongjiu definitely had other identities. Otherwise, how could a mere disciple of the Tianqian medicine manor control them? That was obviously impossible. It was impossible for an ordinary student to have such an aura. Therefore, Li Zhongjiu definitely had other identities that were even more hidden. However, they had now obtained an advantage because of his identity as an alchemist. This was something that could not be obtained if they worked for others. Pills. Who would give away such precious pills to others? Even if they had no use for it for the time being, they would not casually give it to people they had recruited. However, one of them accidentally let the cat out of the bag while being smug. The pill that Li Zhongjiu had bestowed upon them was actually a level 5 pill. The mercenary's blood began to boil with excitement. Damn it! If I knew that the owner of this place was so generous, I would have taken care of all the previous matters. Wasn't it easy to get rid of those rookies? We let these people take advantage of us. Some were indignant, because they had come here to fish in troubled waters, and take the money and leave. They did not pay much attention to many things. They would definitely not make a move unless it was the most critical moment. If they made a move, there was a chance that someone would die. They were also very sad that they had missed the opportunity. What a great opportunity this was. Although they knew that Li Zhongjiu had deliberately used this method to motivate them, they still fell for it. Who knew if he would be rewarded after this? Judging from the current situation, there was a high possibility that he would be rewarded. When will someone come to cause trouble again? You brat, you still don't want to live a peaceful life, do you? To be able to enjoy peace and quiet was also very precious for people like them, who lived on the edge of a knife. However, there were also quite a number of people who were fantasizing about the next time someone came to cause trouble. Then, they would definitely rush to take action. In that case, young Master Li Zongjio might take a fancy to them and directly throw a 5th-grade pill at them. Even if they were smashed with a concussion, they would be very willing. Just as these people drank wine, ate meat, and occasionally played 2 rounds on the gambling table, sure enough, someone came to cause trouble again. When someone came to this special lounge to inform them, these people also rushed out in a rush. There were already several young people standing in the hall. One of them was actually a girl. Oh, this is good. This must be mine. Whoever snatches it from me, I will fight with them. A person who looked like a short winter melon said. The weapon in his hand was an iron staff that was as tall as him. Those who recognized this stick would stay far away from this short winter melon. This was because this staff was called the mountain-shattering staff. If this staff fell, it could directly smash a person's head into pieces. No matter how thick one's skin was, they would not be able to block this flying skull. The 2 ends of the iron staff were hollow. There were 108 iron beads hidden inside. When the elemental energy was activated, when the staff fell, the 108 iron beads would exert force together, and the destructive power would be extremely strong. The way of death would be extremely tragic. Chapter 513. At this moment, he landed in front of Yi Tianshui and pointed the stick in his hand at the person in front of him. Little girl, why don't you take the initiative to admit your mistake and let us tie you up? Then this matter will be over. Otherwise, you won't be able to bear Uncle's stick so easily. Yi Tianshui calmly looked at the short man in front of him. Although the other party was frivolous and arrogant, the latter's aura was calm. Obviously, the short man's strength wasn't simple. He wasn't as weak as he looked. Yi Tianshui couldn't let his guard down. Lung Outyin took a step forward and was ready to take action. Since he dared to say such words to Yi Tianshui, he was ready to teach him a lesson. The disciples of Imperial Martial Pavilion had their dignity too. If they were to fight one-on-one, they might not be afraid of these people. They were different from the rest. Lung Outyin and Yi Tianshui were both from Elite Alliance. The Elite Alliance was more inclined towards actual combat. Compared to the rest of the members, their combat strength was undoubtedly stronger. People like Jean Buffon had talent, but they lacked actual combat experience. When facing such a situation, their mentality would be different as well. Therefore, Jean Buffon could only display less than half of his strength in a battle of life and death. As for Lung Outyin and Yi Tianshui, they were strong and talented. Therefore, in the process of breaking through, they could display 100% of their strength in the face of such a strong enemy. This also showed the importance of having such a mentality. Such a mentality was enough to allow them to survive some impossible situations. Don't be hasty. Yi Tianshui stopped Lung Outyin. He looked at the short man in front of him. He said calmly, I'm here to look for Li Zongjio. Ask Li Zongjio to come out and see me. Yi Tianshui said. Tell him that my name is Yi Tianshui. Since Li Zongjio was able to find her father through his connections, Li Zongjio must have known Yi Tianshui's name. When Li Zongjio heard Yi Tianshui's name, he should know the seriousness of the matter and come out obediently. Hehe, if you want to find our boss, you have to be obedient. Put down your weapon, the short man said sinisterly. Also, you have to be tied up by us, the short man said as his gaze swept back and forth across Yi Tianshui's body. You're courting death. Lung Outyin couldn't stand it any longer. If these people didn't suffer a beating, they wouldn't learn their lesson. Therefore, Lung Outyin's figure directly, his aura crazily. Boom. Grade 8 Yuan Zone. This level of Yuan power was extremely tyrannical. Although the short winter melon was strong, he was merely a grade 6 Yuan ancestor. If he was only a grade 6 Yuan ancestor, he might still be able to put up a fight. However, Lung Outyin's aura was akin to an enormous mountain pressing down on him. Fuck. The short man immediately shouted. He wanted to retreat, but he realized that it was too late. He could only rush towards the mountain. If he could defeat it, he might have a chance to succeed. However, if he could only escape, he would definitely end up in a miserable state. However, the short man had yet to collide with Lung Outyin. Suddenly, a man appeared behind the short winter melon, grabbed his collar, and threw him to the ground with a loud bang. At the same time, the sword in the person's hand suddenly pierced down. Swoosh! A sharp sword was inserted into the side of the short man's neck. The sharp aura had already left a shallow mark on his neck. If this continued, the mark would continue to expand and eventually penetrate through his skin. Clang! The iron rod in the person's hand rolled to the ground. Faced with the strength of these two people, the short man did not even have time to react before he was instantly defeated. They were not on the same level at all. You want to tie me up, right? Yi Tianshui's cold gaze fell on the short man. If Yi Tianshui wanted to, this sword was enough to take the short man's life and cut his head off. From the light in Yi Tianshui's eyes, he did not seem like the kind of person who would not dare to take action. Therefore, the short man was so frightened that he did not dare to speak. Haha, short man, why are you not speaking? Don't be a coward. We are all here to watch. That's right, that's right. Why are you lying down? You've been released too quickly. The surrounding people were not in a hurry. However, the short man seemed to have been forced into a corner and immediately shouted, "If you don't fucking do it, my head will be cut off." As soon as he finished speaking, the people who were already prepared swarmed forward. Facing Lung Outyan, who was a grade 8 origin ancestor, the six-headed butcher took care of it as well. He could use this guy to test how strong he was after breaking through. The rest of them only attacked Yi Tianshui. Everyone be careful, Yi Tianshui said to the people behind him. Then, 3 long swords appeared beside him. Under Yi Tianshui's command, these long swords released a terrifying aura in an instant. It was as if there were 3 extra hands holding these long swords. At the same time, he kicked the short man beside him and sent him flying. Otherwise, this short winter melon would definitely be waiting for an opportunity to launch a sneak attack. He had used his hidden strength in this kick. The short man was sent flying with a kick. At the same time, his head tilted to one side and he fainted. Whoosh! As the sword chi soared into the air, a tough collision occurred in the casino. Yi Tianshui and Lung Aotian were obviously very strong. They were still able to resist tenaciously even when their numbers were more than 10 times greater. Although they were both grade 8 origin ancestors, the old butcher was no match for Lung Aotian. Lung Aotian's aura was extremely threatening. If the 6 of them had not joined forces, they would not have been able to resist Lung Aotian's aura. However, Lung Aotian's energy was limited. If this continued for a long time, he would definitely enter a state where his energy was exhausted. At that time, the 6 of them would be able to easily take down Lung Aotian. Until now, Lung Aotian and the old butcher had not released their origin spirits. This was because this was a way to save their lives. On the other hand, Yi Tianshui was full of battle strength. Facing the attacks of more than 10 experts, he advanced and retreated in an orderly manner with 3 flying swords beside him. Between the attacks, he could often injure his opponents and leave a few wounds. Clang, clang, clang. The swords collided and sparks flew everywhere. Chapter 514. It also changed according to the cultivation technique he practiced. Yi Tianshui had a great talent in controlling his flying swords. He even chose a set of sword techniques in the Imperial Martial Pavilion called the 9 Swords Art. If he cultivated it to the extreme, he could control 81 flying swords at the same time. He could form a sword formation with unparalleled power. Now Yi Tianshui was only controlling 3 flying swords, which was already quite sharp. It was really surprising that he could move freely among so many experts. Those who came forward wanted to take down Yi Tianshui, but they had to avoid him. Yi Tianshui's aura was really too strong. Grab her sword. A metal claw abruptly flew out from one of the men's hands and immediately caught the flying sword. Then, he violently pulled along the metal chain and pulled the sword in front of him. He threw the sword to the ground and immediately stepped on it. At this moment, one of the men beside him saw this and immediately used the axe in his hand to cut the flying sword. With a loud clang, the flying sword was cut in half. Yi Tianshui was also in pain. He could not help but retreat, leaving only the 2 flying swords in front of him. Immediately, the flying swords whistled, and it seemed to be a little difficult for him to withstand the attacks of the remaining people. Hehe, your girl seems to be dying. We don't know what those people will do to her later. The 6 butchers grinned as well. Lung Aotian, who was tenaciously resisting, was also very worried about Yi Tianshui. After seeing Yi Tianshui's move fail, he could not help but feel anxious. At this moment, when he heard the old man's words, he was also nervous and immediately looked in Yi Tianshui's direction. Just by looking at it, his weakness was immediately exposed. No matter how rich his combat experience was, if he did not have a strong will, there would always be an opportunity for others to take advantage of. Boom! The old man directly saw the opportunity and rushed forward in an instant. He then kicked Lung Aotian's chest with the corner of his foot. Lung Aotan was instantly sent flying, as if he had been hit by a thick tree trunk. The old butcher naturally knew that a person like Lung Aotian would more or less have some protective items on him. If he were to use Yuan power to attack, his leg might even be broken by his opponent's protective power. Therefore, the old butcher was very clear that he only used his own strength and didn't use any elemental energy. Therefore, this kick could be considered painful. Lung Aotan fell to the ground with a bang. Immediately, a few long blades landed on Lung Aotian's neck with caw-caw sounds. Don't move. If you move again, I'll cut off a layer of your scalp. A few ferocious gazes immediately landed on Lung Aotian. As for Lung Aotian himself, he was also rather unhappy. It was actually because these people had disturbed his mind that he was defeated by them. This was a rather embarrassing matter. Kill me if you want. Kill you? Hehe, you're worth 50 million purple yuan. And we can't bear to kill you. Who knows, we might even get a commission if we capture you. Tianshui, leave quickly. Lung Aotian didn't want to drag Yi Tianshui down. At this moment, Yi Tianshui saw this scene and knew that the situation was hopeless. He didn't expect Lung Aotian to be defeated so quickly. Hearing Lung Aotian's words, Yi Tianshui knew that if he didn't leave, everyone would be in trouble. Yi Tianshui wasn't a friendly person. If he failed, he wouldn't have the right to speak. Although Lung Aotian was captured, with Lung Aotian's identity and the reputation of the Imperial Martial Pavilion, these people definitely wouldn't dare to do anything. If it was just some conflict, the Imperial Martial Pavilion would not pay too much attention to it. However, if someone's life was involved, they would definitely pursue the matter to the end. No one would easily forgive it, because it was an extremely serious matter. The Imperial Martial Pavilion spent a lot of resources and strength to nurture these talents. However, before these people could grow, they were directly eliminated. If it was any other force, who would be able to accept it? Therefore, Yi Tianshui wasn't worried about these matters. Immediately his figure flew out. Boom! Yi Tianshui directly rushed to the roof and broke a big hole in the roof. Whoosh! A metal chain soared into the sky and chased after Yi Tianshui. At this moment, Taifai had just returned from his business. From afar, he saw that the roof of his casino was suddenly blown away. If he were to repair it, he didn't know how much time it would take. Li Zongjie was also walking on this path. Within 2 to 3 days, he wouldn't have the time to break through the Genius Pavilion. Not only did he have to be prepared, at the same time, he had to make a breakthrough in his strength. When he looked at the roof of the Great Delight Casino, a figure suddenly flew out and directly blew some of the tiles on the roof away. After the white-clothed figure appeared, several other figures quickly flew out and chased after the person in front. One of the metal chains seemed to have hooked the shoulder of the figure in white. Immediately, the figure in white fell from the sky and seemed to be injured. Bang! Although he managed to adjust his body at the last moment, his shoulder still hit the ground. Then his foot seemed to have twisted. Not good, Yi Tianshui suddenly said in his heart. In the next second, 4 figures descended from the sky and completely surrounded Yi Tianshui. At this moment, Yi Tianshui had no way to escape. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, but his eyes were filled with a trace of determination. This is the Xingyan dynasty. If you do anything, the special envoy from Monarch City will never let you go, Yi Tianshui said coldly. Special envoy? Special envoy is nothing. Can a problem that can be solved with money still be called a problem? Little girl, you are too naive. Since the Broad Delight Casino could be so prosperous and operate smoothly, everything around it had already been taken care of. The special envoys and the like had all been greeted, so there was no need to worry at all. If one wanted to survive in this world, they would have to rely on a lot of laws. It wasn't easy to refuse. If one wanted to be independent, it was possible to do so. Get out of my way. I'm going to kill this bitch. A figure suddenly rushed out of the crowd. It was Short Winter Melon, who had been sent flying by Yi Tianshui. Short Winter Melon had fainted from the kick, and had only woken up now. Of course, he was furious. At this moment, he rushed towards Yi Tianshui with the stick in his hand, ready to smash Yi Tianshui's head with the stick in his hand. Yi Tianshui didn't expect that the other party would actually dare to kill him. He wanted to retreat, but the pain in his foot caused him to fall to the ground. His bones were broken. He was already injured when he fell from the sky. After falling to the ground, the short man jumped up and smashed the stick in his hand towards Yi Tianshui's head without hesitation. Bang! Chapter 5:15. Yi Tianshui closed his eyes at the last moment. However, he still did not feel the rod hitting his head. Could it be that the opponent was too fast for him to react? When he looked again, he saw a person standing in front of him, easily catching the falling rod with one hand. It was as if the person in front of him had just grabbed it casually. Yi Tianshui looked at the young man in front of him. It could be said that the other party had appeared beside him without him noticing. In the face of such a powerful move, he had only casually caught it with his hand. This person's strength must be very terrifying. However, Yi Tianshui did not recognize the young man in front of him. He was so young, at most 15 or 16 years old. However, he looked somewhat familiar. When he took a closer look, he realized that the young man in front of him was looking at him with a familiar gaze. You're courting death. Because Li Zhongjiu's back was facing the Short Winter Melon, and the Short Winter Melon was furious to the extreme. Now that he was obstructed again, he was even more impolite. He gently twisted the stick in his hand and pulled out the lower half of the stick. Then, he suddenly smashed it towards Li Zhongjiu's head. Be careful! Yi Tianshui could not help but exclaim. Li Zhongjiu turned around and threw out a punch. Bang! The punch exploded in an instant and sent the Short Winter Melon in front of him flying. He flew almost vertically for a distance of nearly 100 meters before he fell in front of the steps of the Great Delight Casino. Judging from the way his body fell, it seemed that his bones had been fractured. It looked very miserable. Seeing Li Zhongjiu cripple an ancestor-level expert with a punch, Yi Tianshui was also shocked. Yi Tianshui was also surprised. The strength of this punch was not simple. Any expert could see it. He did not expect this young man to have the strength of a human. Thank you for your help, Yi Tianshui said in a low voice. If his movements were too big, he was worried that it would affect the injuries in his body. In fact, the 3 flying swords were tied to Yi Tianshui's mind. If there was a problem with one of the swords, Yi Tianshui would be in trouble. If he was heavily injured, he would also suffer severe internal injuries. Why, young master? Boss, the people from Boyu Casino caught up and wanted to capture Li Zhongjiu and cripple him. After all, this Li Zhongjiu dared to attack their people and even beat up that short guy to such a state. Wasn't this a provocation to all of them? He didn't put them in his eyes at all. However, when they saw Li Zhongjiu's appearance, they were all surprised. He had never thought that this man would be his boss. No wonder he was able to send someone flying with such a casual attack. Looking at the short man's condition, it would take at least 3 to 5 months for him to recover. It was Li Zhongjiu's benevolence that allowed him to live and preserve his life. Boss. Who are you? Yi Tianshui suddenly looked at the young man in front of him with vigilance. No wonder he looked so familiar. The person who saved him was actually Li Zhongjiu. You are Li Zhongjiu. Yi Tianshui's eyes widened. After guessing the identity of the person in front of him, he was shocked. At the same time, he didn't know how to face the young man in front of him. You are Yi Tianshui, right? Li Zhongjiu looked at Yi Tianshui. After all, they had interacted in his previous life. Now that he saw Yi Tianshui, he recalled and roughly guessed that the person in front of him was Yi Tianshui. Back then, the Wuxia city lord Yi Chao had asked him to take care of Yi Tianshui. He didn't expect to meet him under such circumstances. Since Yi Tianshui was a disciple of Chao Pavilion, it was normal for him to come to the casino with those people to cause trouble. However, he didn't expect that these people would dare to kill a student. More importantly, this student was someone that the city lord had asked him to take care of. If Yi Chao knew that Yi Tianshui had died in the hands of his men, he would definitely go to the Li family to seek revenge. Therefore, it was fortunate that he had come in time. Otherwise, this person would have been crippled. You are indeed Li Zongjio. How did you become like this? Ask your men to release the students of Chao Pavilion immediately. Yi Tianshui said immediately. If you release them now, I can still help you to stop the situation from worsening. Otherwise, even I can't help you. Chao Pavilion won't allow you to act recklessly. Looking at Li Zongjio's expression, it seemed that there was still room for negotiation. Therefore, he quickly discussed it. It would be best if Li Zongjio could listen to him and settle this matter. If he released the students now, it wouldn't cause any big mistakes. Are you here for them? Li Zongjio waved his hand and gestured for his men to leave first. What kind of scene was this with so many people blocking the way? Was this a gang meeting? The surrounding mercenaries also gradually left. Taifai rushed over from afar and understood the situation. Then, he asked his men to bring Leng Outyan to Li Zongjio and Yi Tianshui. This has nothing to do with her. Come at me if you want to, Leng Outyan said coldly. When he saw that Yi Tianshui was also restrained by the other party, he quickly said. He hadn't expected that Yi Tianshui would also be captured by the other party. Leng Outyan felt extremely guilty that he had dragged Yi Tianshui down for nothing. Young master, these two people have brought some men with them. They want to bring the children back. Taifai came to Li Zongjio and whispered. The six-headed butcher also brought Leng Outyan along to prevent him from escaping at any time. Leng Outyan seemed to be in a difficult situation. You can't even protect yourself. What right do you have to protect others? Li Zongjio looked at Leng Outyan and said with a hint of sarcasm. This wasn't loyalty at all. It was stupidity and helplessness. Indeed, helplessness. Leng Outyan didn't have any power to turn the situation around. You're Li Zongjio? Let her go and I'll agree to whatever you want. Even if you want my life, it's not a problem, Leng Outyan said in a deep voice. Sure, 100 million purple yuan. As for the other people, 50 million each. Do the math yourself. How much money did you bring, and how many people did you take away? Li Zongjio said. Then, he waved his hand, and the six-headed butcher also let Leng Outyan go. After the breakthrough, they were even more aware of Li Zongjio's strength. Leng Aotian was simply unable to pose any threat to Li Zongjio, which was why they were so reassured to let him go. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.